Oh my god, no way! It's Herobrine! We actually found a Herobrine!
These are the top 30 funniest fake Minecraft speedruns. This first speedrun begins, and right away, there's something completely fake about the speedrun. Surprisingly, it doesn't have anything to do with the spawn, as the world generation looked completely legit. And it also doesn't have anything to do with this game mode, as we can clearly see he's in survival with 0 XP. But let's take a closer look at this speedrunner's keyboard cam. If you look closely, even though the runner's hands are clearly off the keyboard, the speedrunner's character starts to move. And on top of this, when the runner goes to collect wood from this tree, we can also see that his hand is literally off the mouse. This actually proves that this footage is pre-recorded and the runner's keyboard cam is completely fake. Either way, the run starts off fairly normally as the runner locates a shipwreck, loots a couple of chests, and makes his way to a nearby village. And while both the chests in the village and the iron golem are completely normal, the runner finds a floating ruined portal. Now, while this technically is possible to spawn naturally, after literally asking ChatGPT, the odds of this happening is 1 in every 2 million chunks, which basically means this is clearly fake. So, after collecting all the loot from the village that the speedrunner needs, the runner makes his way to the floating ruined portal. We're giving him the benefit of the doubt. All the items in this ruined portal chest contain completely normal items. But while the speedrunner is literally placing obsidian on the ruined portal, move your focus towards his keyboard cam, where we can literally see the speedrunner scrolling on TikTok. This guy is so bad at cheating. So, the runner gathers the materials from the chest, completes the portal, and prepares to spawn into the nether, where he spawns in the direct middle of this giant lava pool. But without any ender pearls or enough blocks in his inventory, how is the runner supposed to make his way to the surface? Well, without hesitation, the runner literally starts walking forward, where it looks as though he's walking on air. And after following a very specific path, the runner actually walks on air all the way to safety. But let's rewind the footage and take a closer look at what really happened. Because as soon as the runner spawned in, take a closer look at this ceiling, where you can see this very specific set of glowstone that clearly can't spawn naturally. And if you play the footage, you'll actually notice the speedrunner is following the exact same path these glowstone blocks are going. If you couldn't already tell, this runner was walking on invisible barrier blocks. But to make sure he didn't fall in the lava, he placed the exact same path with glowstone directly above him. And while that's very smart, this is clearly fake. So, the runner makes his way to the surface, where he almost immediately locates a nether bastion. And after collecting an iron pickaxe, the runner mines some gold and starts to trade with a group of nearby piglins. But as the runner is clearly in the middle of trading with these piglins, you can literally see the speedrunner leave his desk and keyboard. Seriously, who is actually doing this speedrun? So, the runner continues to trade with the piglins, but he seems to be getting slightly more loot than normal. Well, at this part of the footage, take a very close look into the right side of the screen, where you can actually see another set of golden ingots being thrown at the piglins. And when the runner turns around to check his inventory, at this exact frame, we can see the slightest portion of an arm that is clearly coming from another player. This other player is clearly also trading with the exact same piglins, so the speedrunner can get far more loot. So, with 2 people trading at the same time, the runner quickly collects all the ender pearls that he needs. But make note of the fact that the runner only has 8 blocks of obsidian, which will become very important very soon. So, the runner leaves the bastion, where he begins his search for a nether fortress. And while he locates one without any suspicious activity, he actually reveals something else that's completely fake. Because when the runner goes to the blaze spawner, he finds far more blazes than possible to spawn here. Well, if you rewind the footage to just 20 seconds earlier and take a closer look at this wall, you'll actually notice 2 extra blaze spawners have been placed before recording. The runner obviously tried to place them in a spot that we couldn't see, but he just got caught cheating. So, with this insane amount of blazes at the blaze spawner, it's pretty easy for the runner to collect 7 blaze rods. And with 7 blaze rods and 12 ender pearls, a normal speedrunner would then start heading back towards the overworld. The only problem is, the runner only has 8 blocks of obsidian in their inventory, meaning they don't have enough to craft another portal. Well, the runner turns around and sees an obsidian blaze. How did that spawn in vanilla Minecraft? Well, the runner starts attacking the obsidian blaze, and when he kills it, this blaze drops the final 2 pieces of obsidian he needs to complete the portal. What is even happening? So, the runner crafts another portal, lights it, where they finally spawn back into the overworld. But this is when the speedrunner decides it's the perfect time to start playing games on his phone. Is he even trying to hide that he's cheating? Well, the runner crafts his Eyes of Ender and starts throwing them in the air, using a popular technique known as triangulation to locate the position of the strongholds. But this is when the funniest thing I've ever seen in a Minecraft speedrun happens, because after the runner throws his eye, look at what he sees in the sky. It's another player wearing a skin with an Eye of Ender on it and a background of a sky. And this player is literally pretending that he's a real Eye of Ender and starts flying around in the sky. This is too much to handle. Well, the speedrunner follows this quote-unquote Eye of Ender, where it happens to fly all the way to the exact position of the strongholds. And the best part is, during all of this, the runner is literally eating food during the speedrun. This is out of control. So, the runner locates the position of the strongholds, where they start digging down in hopes of locating the end portal room. But as they're digging down, take a closer look into the top right corner of the screen, where the speedrunner randomly gets a fire resistance effect. Not only does this reveal there was a cut in the recording, but this will make more sense very soon. So, the runner continues digging down, where they finally enter the stronghold and begin searching for the end portal room. But they just can't seem to find it after wasting a ton of time looking for it. Well, the runner decides to travel to a nearby cave, where they find this pretty standard looking lava pool, where they suddenly jump in the lava pool without hesitation. And because the runner just got a fire resistance potion, he doesn't take any damage. Well, after about 30 seconds in this random lava pool, when the runner goes back up to the surface, he's somehow in the end portal room. I don't even want to question it. So, the runner goes to the portal, places his Eyes of Ender, and successfully enters the end. And giving the speedrunner the benefit of the doubt, absolutely nothing seems weird about his spawn into the end, as the runner makes his way to the surface and starts to fight the Ender Dragon pretty normally. The only issue is, when the runner is literally killing the Ender Dragon, you can clearly see that the speedrunner is on his phone texting. And when the runner actually kills the Ender Dragon, his hand isn't even on the mouse. We're just gonna move on. This next speedrun begins with the runner literally spawning in a village house, which right off the bat proves this speedrun is fake, as it's obviously impossible for this to happen naturally. But giving the runner the benefit of the doubt, he's in survival mode, he doesn't have any XP, and he's selecting the first slot of his inventory. So this must just be a glitch, right? Well, literally 15 seconds later, the speedrunner cheats once again, because when he leaves the village house, he's greeted with a bonus chest, which is something clearly not allowed in a Minecraft speedrun. I don't think this guy knows the rules. Well, putting aside his weird spawn and the bonus chest, the rest of the speedrun starts off fairly normally, as the runner collects some wood, crafts a couple tools, and starts attacking the iron golem. But when the runner kills it, the golem literally drops iron blocks instead of iron ingots, which clearly means the runner messed with the game files before recording. So, with an absurd amount of iron, the runner collects a couple of beds, gathers some hay, and starts to search for a ruined portal. But on his way, he comes across a shipwreck on land? You have to be kidding me. I think it's pretty obvious it's impossible for a shipwreck to spawn in a plains biome, which means the runner must have built this shipwreck himself off camera. And when the runner opens his inventory just a few seconds later, you can literally see he still has some of the blocks he used to rebuild this shipwreck. This guy is terrible at cheating. So, the runner enters the shipwreck, where they start to loot the shipwreck chests. And while the first chest contains some pretty standard items, the second chest literally contains everything you need to enter the nether. Enough obsidian to build a portal, a flint and steel to light the portal, and even a fire resistance potion to help in the nether. This guy is so lucky. So, after collecting collecting all the items from the shipwreck chest, you'd expect the speedrunner to immediately use these resources to craft a portal and head to the nether. But instead of doing this right away, the runner starts to travel in a very specific direction, where after only about 30 seconds of running, the speedrunner stops at this patch of dirt, where if you look closely, has been marked out with a very specific spot to build a nether portal. So of course, after building the nether portal in this exact location, the runner spawns into the nether directly next to a fortress. I don't even know what to say. So, the runner enters the fortress, where they immediately start looking for the blaze spawner room. But instead of a blaze spawner, the runner finds the sheep spawner? You have to be kidding me. Not only was this clearly built by the runner off camera, but why would anyone need a sheep spawner in a speedrun? Well, the runner starts attacking the sheep from the sheep spawner, and somehow, when he kills one of the sheep, it actually drops a blaze rod. What is happening? So, the runner continues to kill sheep, where he somehow collects 7 blaze rods, where the runner immediately starts to search for a bastion. But when the runner manages to locate one, he has one slight issue. This bastion is located on the opposite side of this giant lava pool. And without any ender pearls in their inventory, how is the runner supposed to travel to this bastion? Well, the runner places down a crafting table, where they craft a singular wooden boat, where they decide to place it on the very edge of this block. But out of nowhere, the boat literally starts floating, and the runner gets in the floating boat, where he actually flies all the way to the bastion. Since when could boats fly in Minecraft? So, the runner exits the flying boat, where they enter the bastion, craft an iron pickaxe, and start collecting gold blocks. But after the runner collects his gold, there's something completely fake about this speedrun. Because in this clip, you'll actually notice the runner hits one of the piglins. But instead of fighting back, this piglin does nothing. This is only possible if the runner is in peaceful mode, something that's clearly not allowed during a speedrun. So, after collecting his gold blocks and crafting some ingots, the runner starts to trade with a group of nearby piglins, where thankfully, nothing suspicious happens, and the runner collects 12 ender pearls fairly quickly. However, the runner isn't getting as much luck with obsidian, as he doesn't get a single piece from the piglin trades. And this is a massive problem, because without obsidian, the runner can't craft another portal and can't head back to the overworld. But the runner still decides to leave the bastion without any obsidian, where they seem to be traveling in a very specific direction, until just 30 seconds later, they locate a ruined portal. But hold on, let's rewind the footage. Because how did the runner know there was a ruined portal at this location? Well, if you take a closer look at these mushrooms on the floor, you'll actually notice that they form the shape of an arrow. And if you play the footage, the runner clearly followed the direction of the arrow all the way to the ruined portal. This mushroom arrow was clearly built by the speedrunner before recording to give himself an advantage. So, after following the mushroom arrow, the runner locates the ruins portal, where they go to loot the ruins portal chests. But unfortunately, they only get 2 pieces of obsidian in the chests, which means they are just 1 block short of completing the portal. Well, the runner turns around for a brief second to organize a few items in their inventory, but when the runner turns back around and opens this exact same chest, a singular piece of obsidian has magically appeared, even though literally just seconds earlier, we clearly saw this chest had no obsidian left. Well, if we play this part of the footage back in slow motion, notice how this strider jumps completely forward in time. This reveals there was a cut in the recording where the runner likely went off camera and placed the last piece of obsidian in the chest so he could finish the portal. So, the runner grabs the obsidian, completes the ruined portal, and finally spawns back into the overworld. But, without warning, the runner starts digging down directly where they spawned in and actually manages to dig straight into a stronghold. However, if we rewind the footage and play it frame by frame, we can actually see the runner spawns in a completely different location, but edited his video together to make it seem like he spawned directly on top of a stronghold. So the runner enters the stronghold, where he uses his Eyes of Ender to quickly locate the end's portal room. But this is when, out of nowhere, an animation of Steve holding a subscribe logo starts playing on the screen, in the middle of the speedrun. That was kind of weird. Well, after that random interruption, the runner enters the end portal room, where he has the exact amount of eyes he needs to complete the portal. But hold on, you likely didn't even notice it, but the runner just cheated. Because let's rewind the footage to before the runner played the random subscribe animation. If you look closely at his inventory, you'll notice the runner has 10 Eyes of Ender. However, after the animation played, the run resumes with him having 11 Eyes of Ender. This animation was clearly a way for the speedrunner to get the last Eye of Ender he needed off camera. So, the runner completes the end portal, spawns into the end, where thankfully, everything is pretty legit. The runner is still in survival mode, he doesn't have any strange items in his inventory, and the dragon is still at completely full health. But when the runner travels to the surface, what am I looking at? The runner is literally in the overworld while in the end. And when the dragon appears, it's literally a wooden ender dragon. You have to be kidding. Luckily, being a wood ender dragon, the runner makes pretty quick work of it and finishes the run. This next speedrun begins with the runner spawning next to both a desert pyramid and a village. And while the spawn is incredibly lucky, there's technically nothing fake about it so far. As the runner is in survival mode, he's selecting the first slot of his inventory, and he starts off the run by mining some wood, crafting some tools, and moving towards the desert pyramid. All completely legit, but let's watch closely to what happens when the runner goes to loot the desert pyramid. Did you catch that? When the runner dug down into the pyramid, he clearly touched the pressure plate on the floor. However, not a single piece of TNT went off, which means the runner removed all of the TNT in the desert pyramid before recording. But that's not all, because the runner also finds some pretty strange items in the pyramid chests. In the first chest, he finds flint and steel, an item that can't naturally spawn there. In the second chest, the runner finds 8 gold ingots, even though the max per chest is only 7. And in the fourth chest, the runner finds a netherite axe, an item that he clearly placed himself in creative mode before recording. This cheating is so obvious. So, after collecting a couple of overpowered items, the speedrunner continues with the runner making his way to the nearby village, where to my surprise, every single chest that he loots contains completely normal items. And the runner starts collecting beds and mining some hay, both pretty normal things you do in a speedrun. But things start to get weird when the runner goes to kill the village's iron golem, because the runner finds the dirt golem? You have to be kidding me. Well, instead of dropping iron like a normal iron golem, the dirt golem actually drops dirt. What is happening? So, after looting the rest of the village, the runner begins to search for a lava pool. The only problem is, without the iron golem, the runner doesn't have any iron to craft a bucket. So how is he supposed to build a nether portal? Well, as the speedrunner is traveling towards the nearby lava pool, he magically collects 6 iron ingots out of thin air. But let's rewind the footage and take a closer look at what really happens. If you slow down this clip and look into the top corner of the screen, you'll actually notice there's another player in the speedrun who's wearing a skin he thinks blends in with the sky. And if you play the clip, you can clearly see this player drop the iron ingots for the speedrunner as soon as he passes by. Not only is this clearly fake, but this proves the runner is on a multiplayer server, something that's clearly not allowed during a solo speedrun. So, with 6 iron ingots, the runner now has enough iron to craft a bucket and starts creating the shape of a nether portal. But this guy must be new to speedrunning because the runner actually creates a square nether portal. But the runner still pulls out the flint and steel from their inventory. There is no way this works. Oh my gosh, the portal lit. I am not going to question it. So, the runner enters the square portal, spawns into the nether, and begins their search search for a nether fortress. But on the way, the runner notices something incredibly strange. This ghast, which at a first glance appears to be way smaller than what a normal ghast is supposed to look like. And secondly, the runner is currently in a crimson forest, a biome that ghasts can't naturally spawn in. Well, the runner starts getting closer to this weird ghast, where all of a sudden, he mounts onto the ghast and starts flying on the ghast all the way around the nether, while he's still in survival mode. I think I've seen it all. So, after hopping onto a flying ghast, the runner quickly travels throughout the nether and locates a fortress, where the runner not only finds 1, but 2, 3, 4, and 5 blaze spawners in a single blaze spawner room. While this is clearly impossible and was definitely placed by the runner before recording, come on, 5 blaze spawners is just unnecessary. Either way, with 5 spawners, there's far more blazes than normal, and the runner easily collects 7 blaze rods, where a normal speedrunner would then make their way to a bastion to collect both ender pearls and obsidian. But this is when the speedrunner decides it's the perfect time to quit his game, go to multiplayer, and start playing Bed Wars during the speedrun. You have to be kidding me. Well, after the speedrunner literally plays Bed Wars during the run, he finally returns to the game. But the runner is now somehow directly in front of a bastion, which he was clearly not anywhere near before he started playing Bed Wars. If you haven't caught on, the runner clearly used Bed Wars as a distraction from locating a bastion off camera and pretending it was there the entire time. So, the runner enters the bastion, where they need to start collecting gold so they can trade with piglins. The only problem is, the runner doesn't have enough sticks in their inventory to craft an iron pickaxe, meaning they can't collect gold blocks and won't be able to trade with piglins. Well, the runner decides to head to this chest and starts looting it, where he happens to find the exact iron pickaxe that he needs. The only problem is, it's literally impossible for an iron pickaxe to spawn naturally in this chest. So how is this possible? Well, if we rewind the footage to about 10 seconds earlier, we can clearly see the same player we saw give the runner iron earlier in the run, open the chest, and place an iron pickaxe inside. These guys are terrible at cheating. So, with an iron pickaxe equipped, the runner easily mines gold blocks and starts to trade with the piglins, where the runner actually gets pretty lucky as he manages to get a full stack of ender pearls pretty quickly. But what kind of cursed ender pearls are those? They're literally bright red when everybody knows they're supposed to be green. Let's just ignore it for now. So, after collecting 16 red ender pearls and enough obsidian, the runner builds another portal and travels back to the overworld. And when the runner goes to craft his eyes of ender, they look extremely cursed. But if we ignore the strange eyes of ender, the runner actually locates the strongholds pretty quickly using a popular technique known as triangulation, where they dig down, fall into the stronghold, and begin their search for the end portal room. And on their way, the runner comes across this stronghold chest, which appears to contain some pretty normal items. Gold ingots, iron ingots, a spectator potion. Wait, what? Is this a real Minecraft item? Well, the runner grabs the spectator potion from the chest, and after they drink it, their game mode literally changes to spectator mode, where they can easily fly around the stronghold and locate the end portal room. I don't even know what to think anymore. So, the runner locates the end portal room, where they thankfully have enough eyes to finish the portal. The only problem is, these eyes of ender are extremely cursed. So, when the runner places his final eye in the portal turns red? That looks pretty scary. Well, the runner jumps into the red end portal, but when they spawn into the end, everything looks like the nether. Well, the runner enters the nether end, where after they destroy the crystals, they actually make pretty quick work of the ender dragon. This next speedrun begins, and there's already something fake about it. No, it isn't his game mode, as we can clearly see the runner is in survival. And it's not even his experience bar, as he's clearly starting the run with 0 XP. But it actually has to do with the speedrunner's world generation, because take a very close look at this menu. We can clearly see that the runner set his world type to a super flat world. The problem is, when the runner spawns in, it's pretty obvious he's not in a super flat world. This means the footage of him generating his world and his spawn are two different clips edited together, and the speedrunner is likely using a set seed, which will make more sense very soon. So, the speedrun begins with the runner gathering some wood from a tree, crafting some tools, and immediately locating a ruins portal. And giving the speedrunner the benefit of the doubt, the loot in this ruined portal chest contains all standard items that would spawn here. Some obsidian, some golden armor, and even flint and steel. But this part of the speedrun is when it's confirmed he's using a set seed. Because at this frame, the runner gets a Discord notification from his friend reading the message, "Did the seed work?" It's pretty obvious his friend is asking him if the set seed worked, which explains why he had to fake the world generation earlier in the run. So, after looting all the items in the ruins portal chest, the runner ends up being just one block short of completing the portal. So, the runner heads to a nearby village where he goes to loot the chest in this village house. And it would appear as though the runner gets incredibly lucky as he finds the piece of obsidian he needs to complete the portal. But hold on, rewind the footage and take a closer look at the specific village house he's looting. This type of village house is known as a medium house. The only problem is, obsidian can only spawn in one specific type of village house, and it's actually a weaponsmith, not a medium house. Which means the runner placed the obsidian in the chest before recording, meaning he cheated once again. So, after collecting the obsidian he needs, the runner gets a bit of loot from the village, completes the ruined portal, and makes his way into the nether. And thankfully, on the surface, his spawn seems pretty legit. The runner is still in survival mode, he doesn't have any strange potion effects in the corner of his screen, and his XP stayed the exact same. But let's take a closer look at a few items in his inventory. Before the runner entered the portal, these two items were directly next to each other. But when spawning into the nether, they have completely separated. This means that there was a cut in the recording, and this nether generation is completely fake. So when he finds a nether fortress 10 seconds after spawning in, we know he just cheated. So the runner enters the nether fortress, where immediately he doesn't even get the achievement for entering into it. And furthermore, when the runner goes to the blaze spawner, there's far more blazes that can naturally spawn there. Well, if you take a very close look at this block under the blaze spawner, you'll actually notice that a second blaze spawner has been placed. The runner clearly did this off camera, which explains why he didn't get the achievement for entering the fortress. So, with this many blazes, it's incredibly easy for the runner to collect 7 blaze rods. Now, a normal speedrunner would then make their way to a bastion, hoping to collect ender pearls, a crucial item in Minecraft speedrun. But this speedrunner instead decides to head straight back into the overworld, which is incredibly bizarre, but will make more sense in a few seconds. So the runner spawns back in before running in an extremely deliberate path until he reaches this specific block, and he starts digging down immediately, which seems incredibly bizarre. Well, after about 15 seconds, the runner digs down all the way to a bastion? Wait, what? Not only did the speedrunner find a bastion, he just teleported back into the nether without a portal. I'm so confused. So the runner enters the bastion, collects a few gold blocks, and starts to trade with a couple nearby piglins. And at a first glance, it would appear as though these trades are completely normal, as he's getting some pretty standard items. But there's one singular item he receives that isn't possible to be traded from a piglin, which is this potion of water breathing. Remember this for later, as it will be extremely important. So, after collecting all the pearls that's required, the runner needs to make his way back to the overworld. But instead of building another nether portal, he simply just starts building up through the same tunnel that he entered, and he builds up all the way to the overworld. I still have no idea how he did that. So, after entering the overworld, the runner starts throwing his eyes of ender, using a popular technique known as triangulation to locate the position of the stronghold. But if you watch closely, you'll notice that the runner isn't actually following any of the eyes, and is literally running in a completely different direction. And he does this all the way until he reaches the edge of an ocean, where he pulls out the water breathing potion he got from the piglin earlier in the run, drinks it, and starts swimming underwater, until he starts digging at this specific block, and after only 30 seconds, he lands straight in the end portal room. And I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea how he did that. So the runner enters the end portal room, pulls out his eyes of Ender, and starts placing them in the portal. But after placing all of his eyes in the portal, the runner ends up being just one eye short. So the runner heads to this lava pool on the side of the stronghold, where they look under this exact block, revealing a chest with the last eye of Ender needed to complete the portal. So the runner gathers the final eye he needs from the chest, places it in the end portal, and enters into the end, where he spawns in directly on top of an end pillar. And at this elevation, it's pretty easy for him to kill the Ender Dragon. This next run begins with the runner spawning directly next to a pillager outpost, and everything appears to look normal at first, as the runner is in survival mode, has no XP, and he's selecting the first slot of his inventory. But move your focus to the speedrunner's hunger bar. If you look very precisely, you can actually see that a sliver of hunger is actually missing, meaning the runner has already played on this world before starting recording, and this will make sense in a few seconds. So the runner travels to the pillager outpost and goes to loot the chest, and at a first look, it would appear that this chest contains completely normal loot. I mean, there's no overpowered items like diamond blocks or netherite swords, so what's the issue here? Well, among all of the completely normal items is one item that actually can't spawn in a pillager outpost chest, which happens to be this chain, which will not only be extremely important for later in the run, but now it's obvious that the runner placed the chain in the chest himself before recording, which is what caused him to lose that hunger. So the runner leaves the outpost and locates a nearby village, where, giving them the benefit of the doubt, they do some pretty normal things like mining some wood, getting some hay, and killing the iron golem. But let's take a closer look at what happens when the speedrunner loots this chest. Before he enters, take a look at the surrounding area. Got it? So he enters the house, loots the chest, but when he leaves, it's literally nighttime, when just 5 seconds beforehand, it was completely bright and fully daytime. And if you look even closer, the runner has somehow acquired an iron bucket when he clearly didn't have that before he entered the village house. The only possible explanation is that there was a cut in the recording, but where? Well, let's watch this part of the footage in slow motion. Notice how when he stares at this cobblestone wall, he actually moves slightly to the left, and that's where he cut the video, and it's pretty obvious he did that to get the iron bucket off camera, which must have taken a while because the time of day completely changed. So using the iron bucket, the runner finds a nearby lava pool and starts crafting the portal. But watch this part of the footage very closely. Did you catch that? The runner literally fell in the lava pool for a split second, caught on fire, but did not take any damage. And it's very clear he doesn't have a potion effect because the top right corner is completely empty. So how exactly did that happen? Well, take a closer look at the speedrunner's heart and hunger bar. If you look closely, doesn't it appear as though the heart and hunger bar are edited in? It almost looks like it's a screenshot because there's a border around the heart and hunger bar that is a completely different background from the rest of the screen. And to prove this even further, I actually managed to find the exact frame where the screenshot was taken. What does this all mean? When the speedrunner fell in the lava, they were actually in creative mode, which explains why they took no damage. But they put in a screenshot of their hearts and hunger bar to make us think they were in survival. So the runner finishes building the portal and heads into the nether. Now, a normal speedrunner would likely make his way to either a bastion or a fortress to either collect blaze rods or pearls, crucial items for completing a speedrun. But this speedrunner seems to have a slightly different idea. Let's take a listen.
Alright guys, there's basically a new method where you get pearls and blaze rods for completely free.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest, I'm pretty skeptical, but I guess let's hear him out.
Okay, just find the nearest wall and count 4 blocks to the right, and 3 blocks up. There's an invisible chest located at that point that has everything you need.
Okay, let's all be honest here, there is absolutely no way this actually works. This guy has to be joking.
Alright, 1, 2, 3, 4, go up 3, and boom! Guys, there's a chest with all the stuff that you need.
I've watched hundreds of speedruns, and let me be clear, I have never seen something so crazy, and I don't even want to know how this guy just pulled that off. So after collecting blaze rods and pearls from an invisible chest, the runner makes his way back to the overworld. And this is where the runner decides it's the perfect time to advertise his YouTube channel, where he puts this obnoxiously large subscribe logo in the bottom left corner of the screen. And following this decision, the runner runs in a very deliberate direction, leading him straight into the strongholds. But how is it possible he knew this location without throwing any Eyes of Ender or using any techniques to locate it? Well, while putting in the subscribe button seems pretty innocent, this was done completely on purpose to cheat in the speedrun, because he puts this logo in the exact same area where commands and chat are located in Minecraft. And if you go to this frame in the speedrun, right after the runner removes the subscribe logo, you can actually see the faint message of a /locate command being used. It's pretty obvious he put the subscribe logo in that specific position to hide the fact he used a /locate command for the strongholds. So the runner enters the stronghold, locates the portal, and enters into the end. But without any bows or beds, how is the runner supposed to kill the Ender Dragon? Well, do you remember earlier in the run when the speedrunner got this chain from the pillager outposts? Well, he uses that very chain to craft himself something called the punt gun. That thing is literally bigger than the runner himself, and with this weapon, the dragon doesn't last very long. This next speedrun begins, and honestly, everything appears to be pretty normal. He doesn't have any strange items in his inventory, he's in survival mode with 0 XP, and he's also facing completely straight. There's just one small issue. When the runner opens his chat, we can see multiple messages about a player leaving and joining the game, which means he's on a world with another player, something clearly not allowed during a solo speedrun. This will make more sense in a few seconds. So the runner starts off by mining some wood, crafting some tools, and locating a nearby village. But let's watch closely to what happens when the runner loots this village chest. I'll play the clip. Did you catch that? Even though there were clearly 0 netherite ingots in the chest, the runner somehow acquired 3 in his inventory. But how is that possible? Well, if we slow down the footage and look extremely closely into the corner of the screen, we can actually spot another player. And we can actually see that this player threw the netherite ingots at the exact same time the player was looting the chest. It's pretty obvious this player is the one we saw leaving and joining the world earlier in the run. So the runner gathers the netherite ingots from his friend and places down a crafting table. Now you're probably expecting him to craft an axe or maybe even a sword, but he instead crafts Thor's hammer. That thing is crazy. So, after destroying an entire village with this new item, the runner begins his search for a ruins portal. And everything appears to go pretty smoothly, as the runner finds the exact amount of obsidian he needs to finish the portal in the chest. There's just one issue. The runner doesn't have a flint and steel in their inventory, or enough iron to craft one. So how are they supposed to light the ruins portal? Well, the runner turns to the side and randomly starts mining some sand. And when he turns back around, he reopens the chest and magically finds the exact flint and steel that he needs. But hold on, just a few seconds ago, we saw the speedrunner completely clear out the chest and there were 0 items left in it. Now, I would be suspicious of his friend we saw earlier, but he's nowhere to be found. Well, until you look a little closer at these blocks of obsidian, where you can actually see his friend wearing an obsidian skin. And now it's obvious how the flint and steel ended up in the chest. So, using the flint and steel from his friend, the runner makes his way into the nether. So the run continues with the runner attempting to find a nearby fortress. And he seems to locate it pretty quickly, which is bizarre considering he didn't use the common technique of scanning for entities like a real speedrunner would. Well, let's take a closer look at this zombie pigman. For some reason, he's been walking in the exact direction as the speedrunner the entire time he was looking for the fortress. But that's not all, because at this frame when he turns around, we can actually see that this isn't a zombie pigman at all, but a player wearing a zombie pigman skin. Because look at the sword he's holding. A real zombie pigman holds it up, while his is held facing down. It's pretty obvious this is the same friend we've seen throughout the run, pretending to be a zombie pigman to lead him straight to the fortress. So the runner locates the blaze spawner, and all appears to be normal. He kills a few blazes and gets the normal 1 rod per blaze that he kills. But notice how the runner magically seems to get a fire resistance effect at this frame, which is bizarre considering he didn't have a potion in his inventory and we never saw him drink one himself. Well, let's take a closer look at this specific blaze, where if you look closely, you can tell this blaze is not like the rest. And at this part of the footage, we can actually see this quote-unquote blaze is the one who threw a potion onto the runner. If you haven't caught on, this clearly isn't a blaze, but his friend simply wearing a blaze skin. So with a fire resistance potion, it's pretty easy for the runner to collect 7 blaze rods, where he makes his way to a nearby bastion. And in the beginning, everything he's doing is completely normal. He's throwing golds, his trades are 100% normal, and he isn't getting any strange potion effects. Until the runner turns around and finds a genie, and he's so excited.
Oh my gosh, guys, it's the magical Minecraft genie!
Did I miss an update? So the genie types in chat, granting the runner 3 wishes he can use.
Genie, may I please use my first wish on a stack of ender pearls?
And is this actually gonna work? Oh my gosh, he actually got them.
Oh my gosh, guys, he actually gave me the ender pearls. It works!
For the second wish, the runner decides to ask for some obsidian, most likely to build a nether portal.
It worked again! Oh my gosh, guys, the magical Minecraft genie!
And for his third wish, the runner decides to ask for a girlfriend.
Genie, may I please wish for a girlfriend?
But unfortunately, his third wish isn't granted. So after getting the pearls he needs, he uses the obsidian he got from the genie to craft himself a nether portal and head back to the overworld. And as soon as he spawns in, the runner sees the magical Minecraft genie once again.
Please, just give me one more wish.
Well, the genie actually gives the speedrunner a book, and when the runner opens it, it reads the exact coordinates of the strongholds.
Thank you, Genie. Oh my gosh, I love you, Genie.
This genie is so overpowered, so the runner finds the coordinates and digs down straight into the strongholds, where he's easily able to locate the end portal. And once again, he sees the magical Minecraft genie, who gives the speedrunner a chest with the most overpowered items in all of Minecraft. This genie is so overpowered, so the runner enters the portal and spawns into the end. And this is where things get weird, because it appears as though the Ender Dragon is dead, as he doesn't have a health bar at the top of the screen. And when the runner goes to the surface, the portal is already filled, but he still sees an Ender Dragon. Well, if you watch closely, doesn't he seem to be moving slightly different than normal? Dude, this is literally the goofiest Ender Dragon I've ever seen. And since when does he drop golden apples? Well, if you couldn't already tell, this Ender Dragon is actually a player's friend we've seen throughout the run, who is actually using a morph mod, because at the end of the run, he actually transfers back to his normal form. This next speedrun begins with the runner spawning directly next to a shipwreck, where he's in survival mode with 0 XP, he's selecting the first slot of his inventory, and he's facing completely straight. But as the speedrunner makes his way to the nearby shipwreck, he accidentally reveals he's cheating, because when the runner opens his menu to change his controls, notice how this sheep in the background is still moving. In a real single player speedrun, opening your menu will cause all in-game activity to pause. However, when playing on a server, mobs and other creatures will still move even when you've opened your menu. This moving sheep proves the speedrunner is playing on a multiplayer world, something clearly not allowed and will make more sense in a few seconds. So the runner makes their way to the nearby shipwreck, and at a first glance, things appear to be pretty legit, as the first first 2 chests that he loots contain completely normal items that would spawn here. But when the runner goes to loot the 3rd chest, there's one slight issue. In a real shipwreck, this chest will always spawn on the left side of this wall. But in this speedrun, we can see this chest is located on the right. And while the loot inside the chest may appear to be normal, it's actually impossible for an iron bucket to spawn here. These 2 issues prove this chest was placed by somebody off camera. And when the speedrunner looks to the right, you've got to be kidding me. There is no way he thinks we can't see him. It's pretty obvious this player trying to blend in with the ocean is the one who placed the chest here. And now it's obvious why the runner is on a multiplayer world. So the run continues with the speedrunner returning to shore, crafting a few more tools, and locating a nearby village. And at a first glance, this village would appear to be completely normal, as the runner starts collecting some beds, gathering some hay, and even kills the iron golem, all completely legit. But that's until you take a look at this specific village house, which is clearly a house from a plains village, not a savannah village. And when the speedrunner goes to loot the chest in this misplaced village house, he of course finds some pretty overpowered items. Now you're probably wondering how this strange village house even got here, as we clearly never saw the speedrunner build it. Well, if you take a closer look at this villager, you can actually see it's not a villager at all, but a player wearing a villager skin. This is clearly the same friend we saw earlier in the run, and he's likely the one who built the wrong village house. So the runner grabs his items from the chest, leaves the village, and starts to search for a nearby ruined portal. And without using any speedrun techniques, the speedrunner seems to think a ruined portal is under this very block. Okay, that's literally impossible. There's no way it's actually under here. Oh my gosh. Now, before you think this speedrunner is some sort of genius, let's rewind the footage to see what really happened. If you take a closer look at this part of the clip, you'll actually notice that these 2 items in his inventory switch places. And if we slow down the footage frame by frame, there's a single frame where we can see the speedrunner changing their game mode to spectator. It's pretty obvious the runner used spectator mode to look underground for a ruined portal and tried cutting his video so we wouldn't be able to see. So the runner digs down, locates the ruined portal, and begins to loot this ruined portal chest, where thankfully all the items that spawn here are completely normal. But the runner only gets 2 obsidian from the chest, meaning he's gonna be just 1 block short of completing the portal. But if we play the footage, the runner somehow is able to place 3 blocks of obsidian and complete the portal. But hold on, that's literally impossible. We clearly saw he only had 2 in his inventory. Well, when the speedrunner turns around for just a split second, you can actually see another player holding a block of obsidian in the corner. This is clearly the same player we've seen throughout the run, and he clearly placed that extra piece of obsidian to help out the runner. So, after receiving some help from his friend, the runner lights the portal and makes his way into the nether, where he spawns directly in front of a fortress. And while that may appear to be simply luck, this spawn is actually completely fake. Because look at this lava right next to the fortress. You can clearly see that it's already flowed all the way down to the surface of the nether. The problem is, lava can't start flowing until a runner spawns into the nether. And if we take a closer look at the speedrunner spawn, there's actually a single frame where we can see the runner spawned in a completely different location. It's pretty obvious the runner didn't spawn in front of the fortress, but cut his video to make it seem like he did to gain an advantage. So the runner enters the fortress, but there's just one slight issue. He doesn't have a fire resistance potion anywhere in his inventory, which will make it incredibly hard for him to fight blazes. Well, the runner turns this corner in the fortress and magically acquires a fire resistance effect. But if we rewind the footage to just a few seconds ago, we can actually spot his friend holding a fire resistance potion, clearly ready to throw it as the speedrunner passes by. They're so bad at hiding their cheating. So, with the fire resistance effect, it's incredibly easy for the speedrunner to fight blazes. But I guess it's taking just a little too long, because out of the blue comes his friend, dropping him a gun? that all happens quite quickly. So, after destroying an entire family of blazes, the runner collects his 7 rods and leaves the fortress. Now, a normal speedrunner would then make their way to a bastion to collect ender pearls, a crucial item in crafting Eye's vendor. But this speedrunner decides to ignore a bastion and instead go back to his nether portal, heading straight back to the overworld. This will make more sense in a few seconds. So the runner spawns back into the overworld and starts to run in a completely random direction until he stumbles across a bastion in the overworld? How is that even possible? Well, the runner enters the overworld's bastion, but there's literally 0 piglins. Likely due to the fact that piglins can't survive in the overworld. Well, I must have misspoken because the runner does find 1 single piglin. But it doesn't take a genius to realize this isn't actually a piglin, but the same exact friend we've seen throughout the run wearing a piglin skin. And if you weren't already convinced, this quote-unquote piglin drops the speedrunner an entire stack of ender pearls. So, after collecting pearls from the so-called piglin, the runner locates the stronghold and begins to search for the end portal room, which he seems to locate extremely quickly. Very bizarre considering he didn't use any techniques for locating the room like a real speedrunner would. Well, rewind the footage to when the speedrunner first entered the stronghold. Notice how some doors contain this strange block on top while other doors don't. Well, this strange block is actually mossy cobblestone, a block that can't spawn naturally in a stronghold. And if you watch the footage, you'll notice the runner only goes through doors with this piece of mossy cobblestone on top. It's pretty obvious the runner placed these blocks himself to remind him of the correct path to the end portal room. So the runner enters the end portal room, lights the portal, and spawns into the end. And thankfully, everything appears to be completely normal at a first glance. The dragon is at full health, he's still in survival mode, and he doesn't have any strange items in his inventory. But when the runner goes to the surface, he finds the dirt ender dragon. Did I miss an update? Dude, this is literally the goofiest ender dragon I've ever seen. Well, being a dirt ender dragon, the speedrunner only has to pull out a single wooden pickaxe, and he's easily able to destroy the dirt dragon. This next speedrun begins with the runner spawning directly next to a mansion. And while there's technically nothing fake about this spawn, the odds of spawning in directly next to a woodland mansion are over 1 in 10 million. So while technically possible, it's definitely something to keep our eye on. Anyway, giving him the benefit of the doubt, the run begins with the speedrunner mining some wood, crafting a few tools, and entering the mansion. All completely legit. But let's take a closer look at this chest that the speedrunner loots. In a real mansion, this chest is supposed to be located on this block. However, in this mansion, we can clearly see the chest was placed 1 block to the left. And when the speedrunner goes to loot this mansion chest, you'll actually notice that he finds diamonds and an iron pickaxe inside, which are both items that can't naturally spawn in a mansion chest. It's pretty obvious this chest was tampered with by the speedrunner before recording. But there's also something in the mansion that proves his spawn was fake, because as the speedrunner is running through the mansion, have you noticed he hasn't come across a single mob? Well, the only possible explanation for this is that the runner is playing in peaceful mode. The problem is, if we take a closer look at the speedrunner's world generation, we clearly saw he had his game mode set to normal. This actually proves that the world generation and his spawn are 2 different clips edited together, and the runner is actually using a set seed, which explains how he got an incredibly lucky spawn right next to a mansion. So the runner finishes looting the mansion, where to nobody's surprise, they immediately find a village next door. But giving him the benefit of the doubt, the speedrunner starts killing the iron golem, looting a few chests, and collecting beds. Nothing out of the ordinary. However, let's take a very close look at what happens when the runner goes to farm these hay bales. I'll play the clip. Did you catch that? While the runner was innocently mining the hay, they randomly received an iron ingot in their inventory. And if you play the footage, you'll actually notice this iron ingot came from in between this stack of hay. It's pretty obvious the runner placed this here before recording to gain an advantage. So, with this extra piece of iron, the runner can craft both an iron bucket and flint and steel, where they start to search for a lava pool in hopes of crafting a nether portal. The only problem is, when the runner locates a lava pool, they realize they've accidentally filled their bucket with milk instead of water. And with no water sources nearby, it would waste way too much time for the speedrunner to go find water. Well, the speedrunner still decides to pull out the milk bucket, where he places it into the lava and what? Actually creates obsidian with a milk bucket. What did I just witness? So, after creating a nether portal with milk, the runner lights the portal and makes their way into the nether, where the runner gets incredibly lucky, spawning directly next to a bastion. But there's actually something about his spawn that proves the speedrunner is cheating, because if we rewind the footage to before the runner entered the portal, we can clearly see that the speedrunner is holding a wooden axe in their hands. However, after entering into the nether, the runner is clearly holding an iron pickaxe. This proves there was a cut in the recording where the speedrunner likely went off camera, located a bastion, and pretended like nothing happened. So, the runner spawns in, enters the bastion, and immediately starts looking for gold blocks to collect. But after searching for over 5 minutes, the runner simply can't seem to find a single gold block anywhere in the bastion. And without any gold blocks, the runner can't craft gold ingots, meaning he won't be able to make any trades with piglins. Well, the runner decides to pull out some redstone he got from the mansion chest earlier in the run and starts throwing it at the piglins. Okay, they're clearly not gonna make any trades with redstone. Oh my gosh, they're trading with redstone. How is this possible? So, not only do the piglins start trading with literal redstone, they actually start giving the speedrunner some of the most overpowered trades in Minecraft. Ender pearls, obsidian, and even fire resistance. But there's actually one single item the runner receives from the piglins that's completely fake, which is this stone button. And while it may appear to be unimportant, remember this button for later in the run. So, with all the pearls and obsidian the runner needs, he begins his search for a fortress, where he actually locates one pretty quickly, where they head straight towards the blaze spawner. And giving the runner credit, he actually does a pretty good job at fighting the blazes, collecting 3 rods almost immediately. But when the runner opens their inventory for just a split second, take a look into the top corner, where you can clearly see that the runner has a blaze spawner egg in their inventory. It's pretty obvious the runner used this egg to spawn in way more blazes than could spawn naturally, but forgot to clear it from their inventory before recording. So, with a good amount of blazes, the runner is able to collect 7 blaze rods pretty quickly. But the runner then makes an incredibly terrible mistake, because when the runner goes to leave the fortress, they accidentally waste 4 blocks of their obsidian building out of it, which means the runner now doesn't have enough obsidian to build a portal. So how are they supposed to travel to the overworld? Well, the runner pulls out his pickaxe and they start to dig in this random nether wall, where they have clearly carved out the shape of a nether portal. And I have no idea how, but the runner pulls out his flint and steel and actually creates a nether portal. How is that possible? Well, the runner enters the portal and somehow is actually teleported into the overworld. But instead of crafting Eyes of Ender and looking for the strongholds like a real speedrunner would, this speedrunner instead decides to pull out a bed and place it on the ground. Okay, I guess this isn't too weird. He probably just wants to get some rest. Oh my gosh. When the runner wakes up, he has literally spawned directly into the strongholds. How is that possible? So, after waking up in the stronghold, the runner begins their search for the end's portal. But after literally 10 minutes of searching, the runner simply can't seem to locate it. Well, the speedrunner decides they've had enough, so they go to loot this stronghold chest, where they find some pretty normal loot. Iron boots, apples, 12 end portal frames. Wait, what? Well, the runner grabs the 12 end portal frames, builds their very own end portal, and it actually lights. this? This is so obviously fake, I don't even care anymore. So, the runner builds the portal, places his eyes, and spawns into the end. Where right off the bat, the Ender Dragon is somehow at half health. And when the runner goes to the surface, every single crystal has already been destroyed. And with all of that, it's incredibly easy for the runner to kill the Ender Dragon. This next speedrun begins with the runner spawning directly next to a desert pyramid, where he starts off the run by mining some wood, crafting a few tools, and heading inside the temple. And surprisingly, all of the loot and the desert pyramid chests are completely normal, so everything seems legit so far. But when the speedrunner builds back up to the surface, you'll notice that this chest has been mysteriously added to the pyramid. When first, we clearly saw this wasn't here before the speedrunner dug down, and secondly, it's literally impossible for a chest to spawn in this location in a pyramid. Well, the runner goes to loot the chest, and when he opens it, he finds some pretty standard stuff. Gold, flint and steel, the true Valoran. Wait, what? That thing is insanely powerful. So, after destroying an entire ecosystem of animals, the speedrunner makes their way to a nearby village. But let's take a very close look to what happens when the runner kills the iron golem. It would appear as though the runner gets pretty lucky, as the iron golem drops 5 ingots, the max amount that he can drop. But if we rewind the footage and slow it down, you'll actually notice that the speedrunner cheated. Because at this frame, we can clearly see that the iron golem only drops 2 ingots. But there's actually a slight cut in the footage to where it appears as though the golem drops 5 ingots. It's pretty obvious the runner cut the footage to get an advantage by having more iron. So, with 5 iron, the runner is able to craft an iron bucket, to which he makes his way to a nearby lava pool. And this guy must be new to Minecraft, because he clearly built the nether portal completely wrong. He built it horizontal when it clearly needs to be vertical. Well, the runner still pulls out his flint and steel. Okay, there's no way this is gonna work. Oh my gosh, that just worked. And just to make sure I wasn't dreaming, I built this same nether portal in my own world, and it clearly doesn't work. So I have no idea how the runner just did that. So, the runner enters the horizontal nether portal and makes his way into the nether. And it would appear as though the runner gets extremely lucky, as he immediately finds the location of a nether fortress. So, the runner enters the fortress and begins to search for a blaze spawner. And he actually manages to find one pretty quickly, which is incredibly suspicious, as he would have no way of knowing where it was located. Well, rewind the footage to when the speedrunner first started looking for the blaze spawner. If you look closely, you'll actually notice these pieces of nether gold ore in the wall of the fortress. And if you play the clip, you can clearly see the runner has been following these blocks all the way to the blaze spawner. It's pretty obvious he placed these here before recording as a way to remember which direction the spawner was located. So the runner locates the spawner, starts to fight a few blazes, and starts collecting some blaze rods. All pretty normal. Until, out of nowhere, spawns a blue blaze? Is that even a real type of blaze? Well, without waiting, the runner immediately starts attacking this strangely colored blaze. And instead of dropping a blaze rod, this blaze actually drops an ender pearl. I'm so confused. So, after collecting 7 blaze rods and his 1 ender pearl from the blue blaze, the runner needs to make his way to a bastion. Well, the runner pulls out his 1 ender pearl that he got and seemingly throws it in a random direction. But it actually teleports him straight in front of a bastion. But hold on, that's literally impossible, as we can clearly see that the ender pearl was thrown in a direction without a single bastion in sight. Well, if we slow down the footage and watch it frame by frame, there's actually a single frame where the runner teleports to a completely different location. It's pretty obvious the runner edited his video to make it look like he teleported to a bastion, but forgot to edit out just 1 single frame. So, after quote-unquote teleporting to a bastion, the runner starts to look for some gold blocks. But he seems to be having a lot of trouble finding them, so the speedrunner instead decides to loot a nearby chest, where he finds some pretty standard items that would spawn here. A golden axe, magma cream, mining goggles. Wait, what? Is that a real Minecraft item? Well, the runner grabs the mining goggles from the chest and decides to put them on, and immediately he can now see where every single gold block is located in the bastion. These goggles are very overpowered. So with the mining goggles, the runner easily locates multiple blocks of gold and crafts ingots to trade with piglins. But I guess the runner isn't happy with the trades he's getting because he decides to pull out the true Valoran sword he got earlier in the run and literally kills every single piglin he can find, which is a terrible idea because he now can't even trade with them, meaning he won't be able to get any ender pearls. And this is where things get hilarious.
Dude, are you dumb? Why would you kill those piglins?
They were giving me terrible items. I'm done with them.
Dude, you can't get any pearls now.
Bro, I have an idea. Don't worry.
Tension seems to be slightly high. Well, like the speedrunner said, he did have an idea on how he was going to get the ender pearls, but I don't think he thought through how obvious it was he was cheating, because his quote-unquote idea includes going into creative mode, grabbing an entire stack of ender pearls, placing them in a random bastion chest, and pretending like he got extremely lucky finding them. And the worst part is, he didn't cut out any of this in his speedrun, so it's just hilariously obvious that he's cheating. So, after claiming to find an entire stack of pearls from a bastion chest, the runner then needs to travel back to the overworld so he can locate the end portal room. The only problem is, the runner doesn't have quite enough obsidian to build another portal, meaning he can't travel to the overworld. Well, the speedrunner decides to pull out some dirt he randomly collected earlier in the run and starts making the shape of a nether portal. Okay, there's no way this works. Yeah, I can't believe he actually tried that. Well, the runner still seems to believe this dirt portal will actually work, so he attempts to light it one more time, and oh my gosh! Wait, how did he just create a dirt nether portal? Even his friend is confused.
How did you just do that?
So, after literally creating a nether portal out of dirt, the runner makes their way back to the overworld. But instead of using their eyes of ender for triangulation like a normal speedrunner would, this runner instead decides to travel to a nearby village, and decides to enter this specific village house, where he makes one of the funniest claims I've ever heard.
Dude, did you know that if the bed in the village is orange, that a stronghold will always spawn under it?
Okay, I know for a fact this isn't true, but let's just see what he does. Well, the runner enters the village house, sees the orange bed, and starts to dig under it. And after about a minute of digging, he actually spawns directly into a stronghold. At this point, I'm just impressed on how the runner is pulling this stuff off. So, the runner enters the stronghold, and to nobody's surprise, the craziness just continues. Because instead of simply running throughout the stronghold like a normal speedrunner would, this guy of course has his own idea.
Dude, I saw something on YouTube Shorts that said if you always turn right in a stronghold, you'll eventually enter the portal room.
Honestly, I don't even know if that's true, but let's see what the speedrunner does. And I can't believe it, but following this method, the runner actually located the end portal room. At this point, I'm so confused, I don't even know what to believe. So the runner enters the end portal room, crafts his eyes of ender, and starts placing them into the portal. And in true fake speedrun fashion, he ends up being just one eye short of completing the portal. And this must have angered the speedrunner so much because he claims he's gonna finish the speedrun later.
Dude, I'm done with this. I'm just gonna finish this later.
And I kid you not, he starts playing Fall Guys. This is the funniest speedrun I've ever seen. So, after literally playing Fall Guys for 30 minutes, the runner finally decides to return to the speedrun. And when he opens his inventory, he magically finds the last Eye of Ender he needs to complete the portal. Even though, if we rewind the footage to before the runner started playing Fall Guys, we can clearly see that this Eye of Ender was nowhere in his inventory. It's pretty obvious the runner used Fall Guys as a distraction to get the last Eye of Ender he needs off camera. So, with the final Eye of Ender, the runner completes the end portal and makes his way into the end. And luckily, his spawn seems to be completely normal at a first glance. As the dragon still has full health, the runner doesn't have any strange items in his inventory, and he spawns on an obsidian platform like a real speedrunner would. Well, do you remember when earlier in the run, the speedrunner found the true Valorian? Well, he equips it and makes very quick work of the Ender Dragon. This guy isn't fooling anyone. This This next speedrun begins, but there's already something fake about it. No, it's not his inventory, as he's selecting the first slot with no strange items. And it's not even his game mode, as he's in survival with 0 XP. But let's take a closer look at the speedrunner's world generation. This loading screen is exclusive to one specific Minecraft version, Bedrock Edition. The problem is, when the runner spawns in, we can clearly see he's playing Java Edition. This means the footage of him generating the world and spawning in are actually two different clips edited together, which will make more sense very soon. So the run begins with the speedrunner mining some wood, crafting some tools, and locating a nearby village, where the runner gets extremely lucky, finding a village with a nearly completed ruins portal and a desert pyramid. But as he collects some beds and gathers some hay, this seed seems slightly familiar. And after a little search on the web, I actually found this exact same seed from a YouTube video called Ruins Portal and Temple in a Village. Look, the village contains the exact same houses. The Ruins Portal is the exact same shape, and the Desert Temple is in the exact same location. It's pretty obvious the runner is using this set seed to gain an advantage, which explains why he had to fake the world generation. But it doesn't stop there, because it would appear as though the runner gets extremely lucky finding the exact amount of obsidian he needs to finish the Ruins Portal. But after I loaded this exact seed for myself and checked the very same Ruins Portal chest, you'll actually find that 2 obsidian spawns here, not 3, which means the runner also placed an extra piece of obsidian in the chest himself before recording. So the runner finishes building the portal, lights it, and spawns into the nether. And on the surface, it would appear as though the runner gets incredibly lucky, spawning directly in front of a bastion. However, there's one small detail that reveals his spawn is completely fake, because before the speedrunner spawns in, notice how he's facing completely straight. However, when he does spawn into the nether, he's actually facing slightly to the left. This isn't possible, as you will always spawn into the nether facing the same direction you entered the portal. And to prove his spawn was fake even further, I built the exact same nether portal myself and spawned in a completely different location. It's pretty obvious the runner faked his nether generation in order to gain an advantage. So the runner enters the bastion, but this is where things get weird. The runner can't seem to find any gold blocks in the bastion, so the runner instead decides to pull out some leftover iron ingots and starts throwing them at the piglins, hoping they will make a trade. Okay, this guy must be new to speedrunning. This clearly doesn't work. Oh my gosh! I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea why the piglins are trading with iron ingots. And if these piglins weren't weird enough, they don't drop a single ender pearl for the speedrunner, but instead drop blaze rods, which is not only impossible to get from a piglin trade, but will become incredibly important very soon. So, after collecting 8 blaze rods from a piglin trade, the runner starts to search for a nearby fortress. But this is when the speedrunner randomly stops moving, even though their timer is still going. Let's take a listen to their audio to figure out what's going on.
Marcus, come downstairs, your dinner's ready.
And the speedrunner cuts off his footage.
5 hours later.
So finally, the speedrunner returns and continues his search for a fortress. But hold on, you most likely didn't catch it, but he actually just cheated. Because let's take a very close look at his inventory before he left his speedrun to go eat dinner. Notice how this slot is clearly empty. However, when the speedrunner returned from his meal, this exact same slot suddenly has a fire resistance potion. It's pretty obvious he used eating dinner as an excuse to get a fire resistance potion off camera. So, with a fire resistance effect applied, it's incredibly easy for the runner to fight the blazes. But these blazes are slightly different than normal, because instead of dropping blaze rods, they actually drop ender pearls. The piglins and blazes in this speedrun are literally switched. So, after his fight with the blazes, the runner collects 12 ender pearls, where a normal speedrunner would build another portal portal and head back to the overworld. The only issue is they don't have enough obsidian in their inventory to craft a nether portal themselves. So how are they supposed to get back to the overworld? Well, the speedrunner pulls out a few items from his inventory and crafts a magic wand. Is that a real Minecraft item? Well, the speedrunner grabs the wand, and after a bright flash, he summons a fully lit nether portal. And I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea what just happened. So the speedrunner enters the nether portal that he summoned and makes his way into the overworld, where thankfully he uses the common technique of triangulation to locate the exact position of the stronghold. Or that's at least what he claims. Because let's watch very closely as the speedrunner is digging into the stronghold. If you slow down this part of the footage, notice how these two items in his inventory swap places, which actually reveals there was a cut in his recording. My guess is this location the speedrunner claimed to be the stronghold was completely fake, and he cut the video to find the real location of the stronghold in spectator mode, pretending it was here the entire time. So the runner enters the strongholds, but there's just one problem. The runner simply can't seem to find the location of the end portal room. Well, the runner opens this stronghold chest where he finds some pretty normal items. Bread, apples, an iron pickaxe, mining goggles. Wait, what? Did I miss an update? Well, the runner puts on his mining goggles and he can now see every bit of the stronghold, which allows him to easily find the end portal room. Is this even a real Minecraft item? So the runner enters the end portal room but has one slight issue. He ends up being just one eye short of completing the end portal. Well, the runner once again pulls out his magic wand, and after another flash of light, he summons the final eye of Ender that he needs. This magic wand is too overpowered. So the runner finishes the portal, enters the end, and here's where things get crazy. On the surface, his spawn seems to be completely normal. The Ender Dragon still has full health, he spawns on an obsidian platform like in a real speedrun, and he doesn't have any strange items in his inventory. But as the runner is casually running on the surface, he morphs into an Ender Dragon, and now he's flying around in the end. Well, as an Ender Dragon, he heads straight towards the real Ender Dragon, but I guess he must be too weak because he actually dies. This next speedrun begins, and at a first glance, it appears fairly normal. He's selecting the first slot of his inventory, he's in survival mode, and his hunger bar is completely full. But take a closer look at this speedrunner's crosshair. In a real Minecraft speedrun, your crosshair will always be parallel to the surrounding blocks. But in this speedrun, we can actually see that the crosshair is angled slightly to the left of this tree, which means this world generation is completely fake, and the runner has already been on this world. So the runner starts off by mining some wood, crafting some tools, and locating a nearby village. And while the village itself is completely normal, the speedrunner actually just cheated. Because let's rewind the footage to when the runner first started searching for the village. Notice how he seems to run in a very specific direction, which is odd considering he had no way of knowing the location of the village. Well, if you look a little closer, you can actually spot these strange pieces of dirt on the ground. And if we play the entire clip, you'll actually notice the runner has been following these dirt blocks all the way to the village. It's pretty obvious he placed the dirt blocks himself before recording, and now it's clear why he had to fake the world generation. So the runner enters the village, and after collecting some beds and gathering some hay, he goes to loot the chest in this village house. And on the surface, this loot would appear to be pretty normal, with the runner finding feathers, flint, and even an emerald. And to further prove his innocence, he finds the exact loot that would normally spawn in a Fletcher house, the exact house that he's located in. So what could possibly be fake about this part of the speedrun? Well, the problem comes from the biome biome that this village is located in, because a Fletcher house can only spawn with a chest in one specific village, a Taiga village. The problem is, if we rewind the footage, we can clearly see this isn't a Taiga village, which means the runner actually placed this chest himself off camera to gain an advantage. So after gathering his loot, the runner makes his way to a nearby ruins portal, and at a first glance, the loot in the chest seems completely normal, as all the items are ones that can naturally spawn here. But the chest is not what's fake about this part of the speedrun, because let's play this clip back in slow motion and tell me if you noticed what just happened. Look, there's actually a secret pressure plate on this piece of stone right in front of the chest. And if you move your focus to the right of the screen, you can actually see this pressure plate moving a piece of obsidian in place to complete the portal. Clearly, the pressure plate was placed by the speedrunner off camera. And secondly, it's not even possible for pistons to move obsidian, so I don't even know how he pulled that off. So the runner finishes looting the chest, lights the portal, and makes his way into the nether. And giving him the benefit of the doubt, his spawn seems fairly normal. He's still in survival mode, he gets the advancement for entering the nether, and he doesn't have any strange potion effects. But despite all of this, the runner still manages to locate the fortress extremely quickly. Very bizarre considering he didn't use any speedrun techniques to locate it like a real speedrunner would. Well, let's pause the footage at this specific frame, where if you look extremely closely into the top of the screen, you can make out the shape of an arrow from this glowstone. And if you play the footage, notice how the speedrunner runs in the exact same direction as this glowstone arrow points. It's pretty clear he placed this himself off camera to remind him which direction the fortress was located. So the runner enters the fortress, and for the first time in the entire speedrun, he does something pretty normally, as the runner fights the blazes and starts collecting rods without any suspicious activity, until when he kills this specific blaze, he drops the Balrog? That thing is so powerful. So, after destroying an entire population of blazes and collecting 7 rods, it's now time for the runner to locate a bastion. But he locates the bastion in a way you're probably not expecting, because the runner pulls out his pickaxe, randomly starts digging straight down, and falls right into the heart of a bastion. The problem is, it's literally impossible for a fortress and bastion to spawn in the same region. So I have literally no idea how this runner pulled that off. So the runner enters the bastion, but there's just one slight problem. The runner doesn't have a single iron pickaxe in his inventory. And without an iron pickaxe, there's no possible way for him to mine gold, and he can't trade with piglins. Well, let's watch this clip in slow motion, because as the speedrunner is casually walking throughout the bastion, an iron pickaxe seemingly drops from the sky. But let's rewind the footage to see what really happened. Because remember when the speedrunner used a pressure plate earlier in the run to gain an advantage? Well, if you look closely at this piece of blackstone, you can actually spot another pressure plate. And if we listen to the speedrunner's audio, we can actually hear the sound of a dropper being activated, meaning this pressure plate was placed on purpose for the runner to get an iron pickaxe, hoping we wouldn't notice. And to prove this even further, at this frame, we can actually see the exact position the dropper was located. So, using the iron pickaxe, the runner can easily collect golden ingots, and he starts making trade with the piglins. But throughout the handful of completely normal trades is a single trade that raises suspicion, which is when the runner gets this singular piece of redstone. And while it may appear innocent, it's impossible for redstone to be traded from a piglin, and this will make more sense later in the run. Now, after collecting Collecting 16 ender pearls, a normal Minecraft speedrunner would build a nether portal and head back to the overworld in hopes of locating the strongholds. The problem is, the runner doesn't have enough obsidian to build a portal, so how is he gonna get to the overworld? Well, the runner randomly decides to run to this wall and starts digging, until after only a few seconds, he stumbles across the overworld? In the nether? What am I even looking at? Well, the runner walks through, and I guess he's actually in the overworld. I'm so confused on what just happened. So once in the overworld, the speedrunner then throws his eyes of ender, using a technique known as triangulation to locate the strongholds. But if you pay close attention, you'll actually notice that the runner isn't following any of the eyes of ender he's throwing, and actually traveling in a completely different direction. Let's take a listen into his audio to figure out what's going on.
Yo, Brandon, what were the coordinates for the stronghold again? I forgot, bro.
Well, he's literally talking to a friend, asking him the exact coordinates for the strongholds. How is he gonna play this off?
Guys, we're at the stronghold. I just used a secret technique I can't reveal.
I'm pretty sure we all know his secret technique is called cheating. So the runner enters the stronghold and ends up locating the end's portal room. There's just one problem. The runner only has 4 eyes of ender left after he wasted too many earlier in the run, meaning he doesn't have enough to complete the portal and travel to the end, until the runner makes this announcement.
Alright guys, I'm gonna go get some water. I'll be right back in a sec.
And the runner turns off his speedrun. There's just one problem. He didn't turn off his audio, and we can actually hear the sound of eyes of ender being placed into a portal.
Guys, I'm back. Let's continue the run.
And to nobody's surprise, the portal now has 8 eyes of ender, leaving him with the perfect amount to finish the portal. So the runner enters the end, and this is where things get crazy. Do you remember when earlier in the run, the speedrunner got this piece of redstone from a piglin? Well, he uses that very piece as the last item in crafting a shrinking device. Is that even a real Minecraft item? Well, instead of shrinking the player, it actually turns him into a giant, and he's literally as tall as the end crystals. And being this size, the fight with the ender dragon is fairly easy. The only problem is, he's just slightly too big to enter the portal. This next speedrun begins with the runner mining some wood, crafting a few tools, and locating a nearby village, where he's selecting the first lot of his inventory, he's in survival mode, and he's facing completely straight. But let's take a look at this specific blacksmith. On the surface, it may appear to be pretty normal, but take a closer look at this specific torch. In a real blacksmith, there is always a torch on this wooden plank, but in this speedrun, we can actually see that the torch is on this oak log. This was clearly changed by the speedrunner off camera as a way to mark out this specific village house, because the chest inside contains gold, apples, a prismatic reaper. Wait, what? Those poor villagers. So after destroying an entire family of villagers, the runner needs to find a nearby lava pool to craft a nether portal. The problem is, the runner doesn't see a single lava pool anywhere near his spawn. So the runner decides to open his menu and navigate to the resource packs tab, where he decides to put in a very specific resource pack. Is that X-ray? This guy is literally cheating. Well, the runner applies the X-ray texture pack, and all of a sudden, he can see every single lava pool in the game. This guy isn't even trying to hide that this run is fake. So the runner digs down to the nearby lava pool, and using his water bucket, begins to craft the nether portal. But this guy must be new to speedrunning, because he clearly has no idea how to build this nether portal. Well, the runner turns to this wall and appears to be checking his inventory. But when the speedrunner turns back around, the portal has magically been completed. when clearly, just a few seconds ago, it was nowhere near close to being done. Well, if you play this part of the footage in slow motion, you can actually see that these two items in his inventory switch. Clearly, the speedrunner cut the video, finished building the portal off camera, and pretended like nothing happened. So the runner lights the portal, spawns into the nether, and luckily, things appear to be pretty normal. As his spawn is completely legitimate, he doesn't have any potion effects, and he starts looking for a nearby fortress. But the runner must have gotten tired from running because he magically starts flying? But wait, we can see his hotbar. He's clearly in survival mode. How is that even possible? So the runner flies all the way to the fortress before locating the blaze spawner. But at a first glance, doesn't it appear as though there's far more blazes than would naturally spawn here? Well, if you take a closer look into this part of the fortress, you'll actually notice this floating blaze spawn egg in the air. And you can also see these strange particles floating around that very egg. And if you move ahead a few seconds to when the runner is leaving the fortress, you can actually see that a player is holding this egg after his invisibility potion ran out. It's pretty obvious he's the one who spawned this unnatural amount of blazes. So, with all of these blazes, it's fairly easy for the runner to collect 7 blaze rods, where he then begins to search for a nearby bastion. And he actually manages to find one pretty normally. There's just one slight issue. This bastion is located on the complete opposite side of this huge lava pool. And because the runner does not have any ender pearls, how is he supposed to get there? Well, the runner casually just starts walking on the lava. Is that even a Minecraft feature? So the runner enters the bastion, and thankfully, his trades with the piglins appear to be pretty normal, as all the items he collects are completely legitimate. But now is a good time to take a closer look at the timer the speedrunner has had going the entire run. While it may appear to be innocent, this is yet another way the speedrunner is cheating. Because let's compare 5 seconds of his timer to 5 seconds of a real timer. Look, his timer is actually moving way slower. He's literally using a slowed down timer to get a faster time for his speedrun. So, after collecting all the pearls that he needs, a normal speedrunner would likely build another portal and head back to the overworld. The problem is, the runner doesn't have enough obsidian to build a nether portal for himself. Well, he starts running in a random direction until he actually stumbles across a fully built nether portal. But hold on, if we rewind the footage, we can actually see this nether portal being built right before he gets there. This was clearly built by the same friend we saw spawning blazes earlier in the run. So the runner enters the portal, heads back to the overworld, and begins to search for the strongholds. And using a popular technique known as triangulation, he locates the strongholds and enters the end portal room. But this is where things get weird. The runner finishes placing his eyes in the end portal, but for some reason, it looks like a nether portal. And when the speedrunner jumps in, is he in the nether? In the end? What am I even looking at here? He's literally in the end, but every single block is like the nether. That portal must have been very cursed. Well, do you remember when earlier in the run, the speedrunner got the prismatic reaper? Well, he pulls it out and the ender dragon doesn't last much longer. This next run begins and take a very close look at the world generation. In a real speedrun, the screen must show this box being completely filled in. But in this speedrun, you can see him cut the footage before the box is completely finished. So when he spawns directly in front of a village, we know the speedrunner is using a set seed and tried editing the world generation to make it seem real. But giving the speedrunner the benefit of the doubt, everything looks fairly legit during his spawn. He has 0 XP, he selected the first slot in his hotbar, and he doesn't have any items in his inventory. But take a close look at the loot in this village chest. There's iron, there's some apples, and a villager rocket. I'm pretty sure this isn't a real Minecraft item. So the run continues with the speedrunner making his way to a nearby ruins portal. But notice how he passed several rose bushes on the way, which is impossible as rose bushes can't spawn in places plain biomes the biome that the speedrunner is in, meaning the speedrunner planted them off camera to lead him straight to the location of the ruined portal. So he opens the chest where he finds some iron and obsidian, pretty normal loot. But he also finds a lever, which is impossible as levers can't spawn in village chests. Remember the lever for later. So the runner grabs the obsidian from the chest and completes the nether portal. Now, you probably didn't even notice it, but the speedrunner actually just cheated. Because look, just a few seconds ago when the speedrunner opened his inventory, we can clearly see there is not a single flint and steel anywhere in his items. But we can clearly see he used flint and steel to light the nether portal. So how did he get it? Well, if we slow down this part of the footage, we can notice a slight cut happen in the recording. Likely, the speedrunner then went off camera and got a flint and steel in creative mode. So he enters the nether, and the first thing you'll notice is that the lava is already flowing. Lava cannot start floating until someone spawns into the nether. And because the lava has already flowed all the way down, we know the speedrunner had already entered the nether off camera. And this is confirmed even further when the speedrunner doesn't get the achievement for entering into the fortress. The speedrunner then randomly gets a fire resistance effect, even though he never had one in his inventory. And this is likely to help him out with fighting blazes, where he gets a respectable amount of rods. Now, in a normal speedrun, runners would then travel to a bastion where they would trade with piglins to collect ender pearls. But I guess I may have missed an update because first off, I don't remember gold blocks spawning in a fortress. And secondly, I definitely don't remember there being a piglin spawner instead of a blaze spawner. This guy can't stop cheating. So he uses the gold he got from the fortress and trades with the piglins to get ender pearls, where he slowly makes his way back to the overworld. Now, this is where normal speedrunners would begin throwing their eyes of ender, hoping to locate the stronghold through a process known as triangulation. But this guy seems to have a different plan. Do you remember when the speedrunner got a lever from this village chest earlier in the run? Well, I guess this is the new method for getting to the stronghold. So he finishes the portal, but notice how the speedrunner doesn't spawn onto an obsidian platform like a real speedrun, but spawns directly onto the surface. And also notice how the ender dragon seems to have already lost some of his health before the speedrunner did any damage to it. Now, the only possible explanation for this is that the speedrunner has already been to the end and simply didn't include it in the recording. And he almost would have gotten away with this until you look very closely into the corner of a screen where a single ender pearl can be found on the ground, likely from the speedrunner killing an enderman off camera and forgetting to clean it up. Now, in a normal Minecraft speedrun, the runner would likely kill the dragon with beds, maybe even a bow, but I think it's clear this is anything but a normal speedrun. Do you remember earlier in the run when the speedrunner got the villager launcher? So he equips it and dies while killing the ender dragon. How can you be this bad while cheating? This next speedrun begins with the runner immediately locating both a village and ruined portal at spawn, where they start off the run by mining some wood, crafting some tools, and entering the nearby village. But let's actually rewind the footage because his spawn is completely fake. If you look closely, you'll actually notice that when the speedrun begins, the runner is selecting the second slot in their inventory. The problem is, in a real Minecraft speedrun, you'll always spawn in selecting the first slot of your inventory. This proves that his world generation was completely fake, and the speedrunner is likely using a set seed. And to confirm this even further, after the runner loots a few chests and collects some beds, they accidentally reveal all the tabs they have open, and one of the tabs is literally a YouTube video titled Ruined Portal Village Island Seed. This proves the runner is using a set seed to get gain an advantage in the speedrun, which explains why they had to fake their world generation. Anyway, the runner collects a few more beds and gathers some hay before they go to loot their final village chest. And inside, they find some pretty standard items. Some apples, a few iron ingots, a banana. Wait, what? That's the scariest banana I've literally ever seen. So, after destroying an entire family of villagers, the runner makes their way to a nearby ruins portal. And they actually get incredibly lucky, as they get the exact amount of obsidian they need from the chest to complete the portal. However, after I loaded in this exact same Minecraft seed for myself and went to the exact same ruins portal chest, you'll actually notice that no obsidian spawns here, meaning the runner placed the obsidian in the chest off camera. So, after getting the obsidian from the chest, the runner completes the nether portal and spawns into the nether, where right off the bat, the runner can see a nether fortress directly next to their spawn. But let's slow down the footage and see what really happened. If you play this clip frame by frame, you'll actually notice the runner spawns in a completely different location, but edited their video together to make it seem like they spawn directly next to a fortress. This cheating is too obvious. So, the runner makes his way towards the fortress, but there's one slight issue. This fortress is extremely high up, and the runner doesn't have enough blocks in their inventory to build up to it. But out of nowhere, the runner approaches the wall and literally starts climbing up it while they are still in survival mode. And I have literally no idea how the runner is doing this. So, the runner climbs all the way up to the fortress, where they quickly locate the blaze spawner. But is it just me, or are there far more blazes than are supposed to naturally spawn here? Well, for a split second when the speedrunner looks up, if you look into the corner of the screen, you can actually see a second blaze spawner hidden in the roof, which was clearly placed by the speedrunner off camera so he'd have more blazes to fight. But that isn't the only fake thing about this part of the speedrun, because if you look into the top corner of the screen, you'll notice the speedrunner has magically equipped a fire resistance potion, even though we clearly saw the runner never collected this anywhere in the speedrun. Well, if you look at this part of the footage, when the runner appears to check his inventory, there's a very obvious cut in the recording when the runner suddenly gets a fire resistance potion. This is too obvious. So, with a fire resistance potion and 2 blaze spawners, the runner easily collects 7 blaze rods, where a normal speedrunner would then make their way towards a bastion to collect ender pearls. But this speedrunner seems to have a trick up their sleeve, because instead of traveling towards a bastion, they go back to their portal and spawn into the overworld. Interesting. Well, once back in the overworld, the runner starts frantically searching around this village, and that's when they come across the Bastion House? Is this a new Minecraft update? Well, the runner enters the Bastion House, where they find one singular thing: a pressure plate in the middle of the floor. And of course, when the runner steps on it, they're teleported directly into a bastion. This cheating is out of control. So, once in the bastion, the runner loots a few chests, collects a couple gold blocks, and finds a group of nearby piglins to trade with. Now, almost every single one of these trades with the piglins is completely normal, as the runner collects some pearls, obsidian, and even a potion of fire resistance. However, the runner also collects this emerald block, which is not only impossible to receive from a piglin trade, but remember this block for later. So, after collecting all the items he needs from the bastion, the runner crafts another portal and makes his way back to the overworld. But instead of using the process of triangulation like a real speedrunner would, he seems to have a slightly different idea, because the runner makes his way to this seemingly random water pool, and once he gets a little closer, you can literally see there's a hole in this pool that goes all the way down to the strongholds, which the runner clearly created himself before recording. So, the runner enters the strongholds, where they quickly locate the end portal room. But when the runner enters the room, take a closer look look at these two corners. In a real end portal room, these corners are supposed to contain lava. However, in this speedrun, these two corners have been completely filled in with stone. So, when the runner goes to dig at these blocks, he of course finds a chest with some of the most overpowered items in all of Minecraft. This is so clearly fake. So, the runner places his eyes of Ender, lights the end portal, and spawns into the end. And immediately, when the runner travels to the surface, why are all the end pillars extremely small? They're far shorter than the normal height of an end pillar. Not to mention, the Ender Dragon has somehow already lost a ton of health. Well, do you remember when earlier in the speedrun, the runner got this emerald block from a piglin trade? Well, he uses that very block to craft the soul sword, which destroys the Ender Dragon. This next speedrun begins, but there's already something fake about it, because take a very close look into the top right corner of the screen, where you can see a sign with the singular letter D on it. Not only was this clearly placed by the runner in creative mode, but remember it for later as it will become very important. Either way, besides this strange sign, the rest of his spawn is pretty normal. He's in survival mode, he's selecting the first slot of his inventory, and he's facing completely straight. But when the runner enters a nearby village, things start to get a little strange. No, it's not in this hay that the speedrunner gathers, as it's obviously legit. And it's not even in the chest that the speedrunner loots, as all the items here are pretty standard. But it actually has to do with this village's iron golem. Because let's just say, it's not a normal iron golem. So, after seeing the obsidian golem, the runner starts to attack it in hopes of getting some loot. And what do you know? The obsidian golem drops obsidian for the speedrunner. That's actually kind of cool. So, after collecting obsidian from the obsidian golem, the runner begins to look for a nearby ruins portal. The issue is, even after looting the chest, the runner doesn't have any flint and steel to light the nether portal. So, in true speedrunner fashion, the speedrunner decides to cut his footage. Where at this part of the clip, you can actually see that this squid completely jumps forward in time. And when the runner goes to check his inventory, he magically finds a flint and steel ready for him to use. When literally seconds before, he clearly didn't have this anywhere in his inventory. These speedrunners never learn. So, the speedrunner lights the portal, enters it, and starts teleporting into the nether. But before he does that, take a very close look into the corner of the screen, where you can actually see this strange sand structure that clearly makes out the shape of an eye. Remember this letter along with the letter D we saw earlier in the run. So, the runner enters the nether, and with a pretty legitimate spawn, starts his search for a nearby bastion. But, the speedrunner does something incredibly suspicious during his search, because at this part of the footage, notice how the speedrunner has suddenly acquired a fire resistance potion in his inventory, when just seconds earlier, we clearly saw this exact same slot had hay. Well, if you take a closer look at this piglin, you'll actually notice that it jumped forward in time. And like just a few seconds ago, this means the speedrunner once again cut the footage, where the speedrunner likely went off camera, got the fire resistance potion, as he knew it would be important later in the run. So the speedrunner enters the bastion and starts searching for gold blocks to collect ingots to trade with piglins. But watch very closely to how many gold blocks the runner mines, which we can clearly see is 4. However, when the runner opens his inventory, it appears as though he has 7 blocks of gold, which is nearly double the 4 we saw him mine. Well, let's rewind the footage and take a closer look at this part of the speedrun. I'll play the clip. If you couldn't tell, the speedrunner actually stands on a pressure plate while mining the golds, which then causes 3 gold blocks to fall from the sky into his inventory. And at this frame, you can actually see the exact dropper these gold blocks are coming from. It's pretty obvious the runner set up this contraption to get more gold, increasing his odds of getting enough loot from the piglin trades. So, with all this gold, the runner locates a nearby group of piglins and starts to trade with them. And he actually gets some pretty lucky trades, collecting 12 ender pearls rather quickly. But he ends up only having 5 blocks of obsidian in his inventory, which will become very important later in the run. So, after collecting his pearls, a normal speedrunner would then make their way to a fortress to collect blaze rods. But this speedrunner has a slightly unusual method of locating a fortress, because instead of searching for one by scanning for entities, the runner instead places down a crafting table and crafts a waystone. Is this a real Minecraft item? Well, the runner places down the waystone, and after clicking it, teleports teleports directly into the fortress. I'm not even gonna question it. So the runner enters the fortress where they begin to look for a blaze spawn, but on his way, take a very close look at this wall. Do you remember when we saw 2 letters earlier in the run, D and I? Well, there's actually another sign on this wall with the letter R. Strange, but remember it along with the other 2 letters as they will be very important later. So the runner locates the blaze spawner and immediately something suspicious happens. If you look closely into the very corner of the spawner, you can actually see there's already a handful of blaze rods on the floor. And while the runner is pretending to fight the blazes, he walks backwards and picks up all of these rods. And you can literally see the amount of blaze rods in his inventory jump up. So after killing a few more blazes, the runner has 7 rods total and needs to think about heading back to the overworld. But like I mentioned earlier, he only has 5 total blocks of obsidian, so how is he supposed to build a portal and travel to the overworld? Well, the runner places down a crafting table and crafts a paintbrush. Is this a real Minecraft item? Well, the speedrunner takes the paintbrush, runs to a random wall in the nether, and starts painting out the design of a nether portal. Okay, this clearly won't work. There is no way a drawn nether portal actually works. That's actually the craziest thing I've ever seen. So, after literally painting an entire nether portal, the runner makes his way back to the overworld, where thankfully, things start to become normal again. As the runner crafts himself some eyes of ender, and using the technique known as triangulation, starts to search for the location of the strongholds. But in the process of looking for the strongholds, the runner comes across a fully built ruins portal. And for some odd reason, the runner decides to light it and travel to the nether. This may seem very bizarre considering he has all the materials he needs from the nether, but this will make more sense in a few seconds. So, the runner enters the portal and seems to be looking for something very specific in the nether. And during this weird searching process, we actually see one final letter in the wall, which appears to make the shape of a T. Remember these 4 letters as they'll be extremely important very soon. So, after searching in the nether for quite some time, the runner comes across something absolutely insane. Is that a stronghold? In the nether? What am I even looking at? Well, the runner enters the stronghold in the nether and actually finds the end portal room, which explains why he decided to enter the ruins portal a few minutes ago. So the runner pulls out his eyes of ender, lights the portal, and makes his way into the end. And thankfully, when the speedrunner spawns in, everything is completely legit. The runner is still in survival mode, the dragon is still at full health, and he doesn't have any weird items in his inventory. But as the speedrunner makes his way to the surface, do you remember the 4 strange letters we saw throughout the speedrun? We first saw the letter D right when the speedrunner spawned in. We then saw the shape of the letter I in this weird sand structure. Next, we saw the letter R on a sign in the fortress. And finally, we saw the letter T in the nether. And when you put these 4 letters together, you spell out dirt. So when the runner goes to the surface, you know he's looking for one specific block. And after finding the dirt block, the runner breaks it, revealing a chest with some of the most overpowered items in all of Minecraft. And I'm not gonna lie, that's incredibly creative. So after collecting literally every single OP item in the game, the runner easily breaks the crystals and waits for the dragon to perch. But right as the speedrunner is about to kill the ender dragon, his game freezes, and he isn't able to complete the speedrun. This next runner spawns in directly near a shipwreck, where he's in survival mode, selected the first lot of his inventory, and he's facing completely straight. Seems legit. But as the runner goes to loot the shipwreck chest, we can clearly see another player trying to hide behind these wooden planks. The problem is, this is a solo speedrun, and having another player on the same world is clearly not allowed. So when the runner finds a god apple in the shipwreck chest, it's pretty obvious his friend is the culprit. The runner then returns to shore and locates a nearby village, and heads straight to one specific village house, where the chest inside contains some fairly normal loot. Bread, apples, a super battle axe. Wait, what? But hold on a second. How did the speedrunner know that this super overpowered item was in this village house? Well, let's go back to when the speedrunner first entered the village. If you look very closely above the house that contains the super battle axe, you can actually see the outline of a player wearing a skin he thinks blends in with the sky. Most likely, this is the same friend who accidentally revealed himself earlier in the run, and he purposely flew above this village house to alert the player the super battle axe was inside. So the runner finds a nearby lava pool and enters into the nether. The speedrunner then decides to use a popular speedrun technique for locating a fortress, where they increase their FOV and use the number of entities to guide which direction a fortress may be located. But when comparing their method to a real speedrunner, it's obvious that this runner is simply using this as a distraction, because at the exact same time, we can actually spot the friend we've seen throughout the run flying in a very specific direction. And 20 seconds later, if we listen to the speedrun's audio, we can actually hear a Discord notification. And all of a sudden, the speedrunner knows the exact direction the fortress is located. It's pretty obvious his friend used a locate command to find the fortress, DM'd him the coordinates on Discord, which the speedrunner used to find the fortress. So he enters the fortress, finds the blaze spawner, but only collects 4 rods. And later, when he goes to locate a bastion, he decides to only collect 6 ender pearls. A normal Minecraft speedrunner would often collect far more of each item to have enough eyes to finish the portal, but his small amount of items will make sense very soon. So the runner needs to make a portal to head back to the overworld. The problem is he didn't get enough obsidian to be able to build another portal, until when he's walking, a stack of obsidian magically falls from the sky. And if you look closely, you can see particles in the air, meaning the obsidian was being dropped by his friend using an invisibility potion. So using the obsidian, the runner is able to make their way to the overworld, and they seem to locate the stronghold very quickly. But giving them the benefit of the doubt, their process seemed fairly normal. Now, do you remember earlier in the run when the speedrunner did not collect a normal amount of rods and pearls? Well, he enters the stronghold and he only has 6 eyes of ender, far too little to complete the portal. Well, when he enters the end portal room, he finds a chest called the item duplicator. Is this a new update that I missed? Okay, he's gotta be joking. Why is he actually putting his eyes of ender? It's not gonna work. Okay, how is that possible? Well, I guess now it's clear why he didn't need to collect a ton of rods or pearls in the nether. So with enough eyes of ender, the runner makes their way into the end. And when they spawn in the end, the friend isn't even hiding that they're part of the speedrun, and they kill the ender dragon together. This next speedrun begins with the runner spawning directly in front of a village. And while everything appears to be completely normal, take a closer look at the bottom left corner of his screen. There's a singular piece of pork on the ground, meaning the world had already been played on, and he forgot to pick up the item after killing a pig. But that isn't all that he did off camera, because take a closer look at the door of this village house. A normal village house contains 2 torches, one on each side of the door. However, this village house only contains one on the left, meaning the speedrunner broke one of them before recording. And this is likely to mark out this specific village house, because the chest contains bread, apples, a carrot sniper. Wait, what the heck? Remember this for later. The speedrunner continues the run by collecting some hay and killing the iron golem to get iron and craft a bucket, when he immediately goes to this very suspiciously placed dirt block and digs straight down, which just so happens to lead him to the lava pool. But how is it possible the speedrunner knew to dig down at this specific block? Well, the only way a grass block turns into a dirt block is if something is placed over it. And because we can clearly see the speedrunner never did this, the only explanation is that he placed the dirt block in creative mode. to easily remember to dig down at this specific block and find the lava pool. So the run continues with the speedrunner creating a nether portal and entering the nether, where the speedrunner finds a nearby bastion. So, using his gold, he begins to trade with the piglins to try to get loot. It's important to note that every single time you throw a gold inglet, a piglin has a 2.18% chance of giving you 4 ender pearls. And because the speedrunner only has 3 gold, the absolute max amount of ender pearls he would be able to get is 12. However, when the speedrunner is done trading, he gets a total of 15 ender pearls. The only explanation is that the speedrunner changed the loot drop percentages of ender pearls from 4 pearls to 5 for a single trade. It can't get any more obvious. So he collects his pearls and makes his way to a nearby fortress. And is it just me, or are there far more blazes than what usually spawn? Well, if we pause the footage at this frame, we can see a blaze spawner egg hidden in his inventory that he forgot to get rid of, meaning the speedrunner simply used the egg to spawn in an insane amount of blazes. So he easily collects his rods and then finds an oddly suspicious wall that clearly resembles the shape of a nether portal. And of course, this position spawns the speedrunner directly into the end portal room. It's pretty obvious he marked out this specific spot as he knew it would lead him to the portal. So the speedrunner places the eyes and makes his way into the end. In a normal speedrun, the speedrunner would likely use beds to kill the ender dragon, but we can clearly see that the speedrunner doesn't have a single bed in his inventory. Well, do you remember when earlier in the run, the speedrunner found a carrot launcher in this village chest? This is gonna be interesting. I guess the ender dragon couldn't handle a simple carrot launcher. So this next speedrun begins and take a very close look at the world generation. In a real speedrun, the screen must show this number reaching 100%. But in this speedrun, you can see him cut the footage at 98%. So when he spawns right in front of a village, we know he's using a set seed and edited the world generation to make it look real. But giving him the benefit of the doubt, everything looks legitimate at a first glance. He doesn't have any XP, he's in survival mode, and doesn't start with any weird items in his inventory. Until you look closer at the roof of this village house, which has clearly been marked by the speedrunner with this slightly different colored stair, to mark out the fact that this house has a chest with bread, apples. Wait, is that a rocket launcher? Remember this for later. So he leaves the village and begins his search to find a lava pool to build a nether portal, where he suddenly stops and digs straight down at this random block, magically leading him straight to a lava pool. But how is it possible he knew to dig down at this exact block? Well, if we slow down this footage from just a few seconds earlier, you can clearly see the position of the bread and apples in his hotbar switch, meaning there was a cut in his recording, which allowed the speedrunner to go off camera and find the location of the lava pool in spectator mode. So he begins to build his nether portal, but ends up running out of lava with just 1 block short of finishing the portal. But somehow he actually manages to light the nether portal, and I'm not even gonna try to explain how he does that. So he enters the nether and immediately spawns in front of a fortress, but instead of heading straight into it, the speedrunner oddly just stops moving his character and stands completely still while the timer is still running. Let's just take a listen to his audio to figure out what's going on.
Jimmy, get off Minecraft and go do your homework.
I kid you not, he literally changes his tab from Minecraft to Khan Academy and starts doing math equations. You cannot make this up.
5 minutes later.
Anyway, he finally returns to the game and heads into the fortress, where he's able to get 7 blaze rods fairly easily. He then makes his way over to a nearby bastion and ends up getting pretty lucky with the piglin trades, getting 16 pearls very quickly. But that is not what's fake about these piglin trades, because he also ends up getting a compass, something that is impossible to receive from a piglin trade. Now you're probably asking, why would the speedrunner fake getting a compass, because how could that even help him in the speedrun? Well, when he goes back to the overworld and opens his crafting table, he uses this exact compass to craft something called a stronghold finder. And with just one click of it, a message appears saying stronghold located, and the compass directs the speedrunner straight to the stronghold. And now it's clear why he made it seem like he got the compass from a piglin. So he finds the end portal room and begins to fill the portal, but ends up just being one eye short. But hold on, take a closer look at this block. This block is smooth stone, when in a normal stronghold, this block is supposed to be a stone brick. And when he breaks this smooth stone, he magically finds a chest with the last eye vendor he needs to finish the portal. He clearly tried to mark out the spot of the chest by using a different block, hoping we wouldn't notice. So the speedrunner enters the end, and here's where things get crazy. You're probably expecting him to fight the dragon with maybe some beds, perhaps even a bow. Oh no, no, no. Do you remember when earlier in the run, the speedrunner got a rocket launcher from this chest? Well, he equips it and... I think the footage just spoke for itself. This next speedrun begins with the runner spawning directly next to a village, where he's selecting the first slot of his inventory, he's in survival mode, and he's also facing completely straight. Everything seems legit. But as the runner makes his way towards the village, take a closer look into the bottom left corner of the screen, where we can clearly see the message of a player joining the world. Not only does this prove the runner is on a multiplayer server, which is something obviously not allowed during a speedrun, but remember this player who joined the world for later in the run. So the runner enters the village, where they loot a few chests, collect a couple beds, and gather some hay, where they then decide they want to trade with a couple villagers to get some loot. But let's just say he finds a strange looking villager, who, if you couldn't already tell, is clearly the same player we saw join the world a few minutes ago, wearing a villager skin. So the runner goes up to this quote-unquote villager and throws him a few wood planks, which is an item that real villagers can't even trade with in Minecraft. However, for these planks, this villager decides to give the speedrunner an entire stack of iron ingots in return. These guys aren't fooling anyone. So, with a stack of iron ingots, the runner crafts both an iron bucket and flint and steel, where they make their way to a nearby lava pool. But this speedrunner must be new to Minecraft, because they can't seem to figure out how to craft a nether portal. Well, let's take a listen into his audio to figure out what's going on.
How to build a speedrunner's nether portal in less than a minute. For this, you'll need to find yourself a lava pool, and you'll also...
If you couldn't tell, this speedrunner is literally watching a tutorial on how to build a nether portal during a speedrun. You have to be kidding me. So, the runner finally completes the nether portal and lights it using their flint and steel. And when he spawns into the nether, the runner gets incredibly lucky, as he literally spawns directly next to a fortress. But this part of the speedrun is actually completely fake, because look, before the runner entered the nether, notice how he is standing on the right side of the portal. However, when he spawns into the nether, he's suddenly now on the left side of the portal. This reveals there was a cut in the recording where the runner easily located the nether fortress off camera. So the runner enters the fortress, where they immediately start to search for a blaze spawner room, and on their way, the speedrunner comes across a nether fortress chest. However, while the loot in this chest may appear to be innocent, it's actually impossible for both fire resistance and an iron pickaxe to spawn here, meaning the runner placed them in the chest before recording. So, with a fire resistance potion, it's pretty easy for the runner to fight the blazes without much trouble. And on the surface, it would appear as though the runner gets extremely lucky, as he collects 7 blaze rods almost instantly. However, let's rewind the footage and see what really happened. If you look closely into the very corner of the spawner, you'll actually notice these particles in the air. And just a few seconds later, blaze rods magically seem to be coming from where these particles are. It's pretty obvious these particles are coming from an invisibility potion, and the same player we've seen throughout the speedrun is using the potion to give the runner extra blaze rods without us noticing. So, the runner collects his 7 blaze rods, where a normal speedrunner would begin a search for a nearby bastion. But on his way, the runner comes across the Bastion Prep House? Is this a new Minecraft feature? Well, the runner enters the Bastion Prep House, where of course, he finds the exact same player we've seen throughout the run inside. And he also finds a chest with almost everything you need for a bastion. A bunch of gold blocks, an iron pickaxe, and a bunch of god apples. And on top of all of this, in the very corner of the Bastion Prep House is a lever, and when the runner flips it, he's immediately teleported directly into a bastion. Let's just pretend that didn't happen. So, the runner enters the bastion, where using his loot from the prep house, easily crafts gold ingots and starts to trade with the piglins. However, for literally 3 minutes straight, the runner does not get a single ender pearl from any of the piglins, which is terrible luck as the runner needs ender pearls to continue the speedrun. Well, the runner turns around when they go to loot this bastion chest, where inside they literally find every single ender pearl that they need. However, this is clearly impossible, as ender pearls can't even spawn in bastion chests. And to further confirm this is fake, at this part of the footage, we can literally see his friend filling this chest with ender pearls. They're so bad at cheating. So, the runner collects all the pearls and rods that he needs. There's just one slight issue. The runner only has 6 obsidian in his inventory, so how is he supposed to craft a portal and head back to the overworld? Well, the runner decides to run all the way back to his original nether portal, but when he spawns back into the overworld, he spawns directly next to the strongholds, which is literally impossible, as we clearly saw this nether portal was located at a lava pool earlier in the run. So the runner enters the strongholds, where it seems as though he immediately knows the location of the end portal room. But let's rewind the footage to see what really happens. If you look closely at the walls of this stronghold, you'll notice a very unusual amount of torches. And if you play the clip, you'll notice the runner actually followed these strange torches all the way to the end portal room. It's pretty obvious the runner placed these torches here before recording to remind him which direction to go for the end portal room. So the runner enters the end portal room, lights the portal, and makes his way into the end. And thankfully, his spawn appears to be pretty normal, as the dragon has full health, the runner is still in survival mode, and he doesn't have any weird items in his inventory. But when the runner makes his way to the surface, is that Notch? This is the world's luckiest speedrun. Well, the runner goes up to Notch, where he immediately starts throwing stacks and stacks of god apples at the runner. But that isn't all, because Notch actually types in the chat reading the message, "Follow me for a surprise." And after the runner follows Notch throughout the entire end, he leads the speedrunner to this lever. And when the runner flips the lever, it reveals one of the most overpowered loot rooms I've seen in Minecraft. Full netherite armor, a chest with literally every overpowered item in Minecraft, and even a commands block waiting for the speedrunner. Well, taking advantage of this overpowered room, the runner opens the command block, where they start typing a command to kill the ender dragon. And after the press of one singular button, the dragon actually dies. Notch just made that speedrun so overpowered. This next speedrun starts with the runner mining some wood and crafting some tools, where he then finds a nearby village. He starts by collecting some hay and killing the iron golem. But the speedrunner then finds a very strange house in the village called the Nether House? house? What explanation is he going to give for this?
Okay, we're going in the brand new village house called the Nether House. It's a brand new feature.
So he enters the house and the chest contains all of the necessary items to enter the Nether. At least the house was named properly. So using his items from the Nether house, the speedrunner enters the Nether, where he suddenly starts building straight up, digs through the roof, and ends up straight into the fortress. He clearly already knew the position of the fortress before recording. So the speedrunner searches for the blaze spawner, where he instead finds Notch? And the speedrunner is absolutely ecstatic.
Oh my gosh, guys, we found Notch in the speedrun. That's so lucky.
So Notch gives the speedrunner a full stack of blaze rods. Since when did Notch just give players items? So the runner collects his rods from Notch and begins to search for a nearby bastion. But the runner decides to randomly stop moving, even though the timer is still going. Let's check in on his audio to figure out what's going on.
Guys, I'm really sorry. My dad just told me I gotta go take out the trash, so I'll be back.
And the speedrunner cuts off the footage. He does realize he's in a speedrun, right?
5 hours later.
Sorry guys, I'm back. Just had to take care of that really quick.
So the speedrunner finally returns to the game, but he actually just cheated. Because if you look closely at his inventory, he suddenly has 16 ender pearls. Even though we clearly saw he never went to a bastion. Meaning he used taking out the trash as an excuse to cut the video and get ender pearls off camera. So the runner crafts himself a portal and heads back to the overworld, where he decides to start looking for the stronghold, but strangely does not use any of his eyes of ender to do so. But this will make sense soon. So after trying to search for it without eyes of ender, he suddenly gets the urge to dig down at this specific block.
I have a feeling the stronghold is under this block. Trust me, it's gonna work.
And to my amazement, this actually leads him straight into the strongholds. But how did the speedrunner know to dig down at this exact block if he didn't even use Eyes of Ender? Well, take a very close look at the surrounding area before the speedrunner dug down. Do you notice this flower just a few blocks away from where he digs down? Well, this is a flower known as the Lily of the Valley. The problem is, this flower is only able to spawn in a flower forest biome, but we can clearly see the speedrunner is in a plains biome. This all means that the runner placed it himself in creative mode to remind him that the stronghold was under this location. So, the runner finds the end portal room and crafts his eyes to finish the portal. But when the speedrunner jumps in, he gets sent to the Nether? Is that even possible? Well, he happens to spawn directly next to a room, which not only has a chest with all of the items he needs to kill the Ender Dragon, but a fully lit end portal for him to use extremely quickly. So he gathers the overpowered items and gets teleported to the end. And using these items, the fight ends very quickly. This next speedrunner spawns in directly next to a ruined portal. Suspicious, but considering his spawn seems fairly normal, we can say it's legit. However, the loot inside this ruined portal chest is a different story, because scattered among the obsidian and gold is an item that isn't possible to spawn in this chest. This piece of blackstone. And while it may appear incredibly innocent, this one block will be extremely important part of the speedrun very soon. Now, even though the runner spawned directly next to a portal, without enough obsidian, he's forced to look for a nearby village. And while the village looks completely normal on the surface, there's one small detail which reveals there's something incredibly suspicious going on. Because look very closely at this village light post. A normal village light post contains 4 torches, one on each side of the block. But in this speedrun, one of the torches has been mysteriously missing. And once the speedrunner notices this, they decide to dig straight down under it, leading them to a fully completed nether portal. It's pretty obvious they broke one of the torches to remember a ruined portal was under this specific lamppost. So the runner enters the portal and heads into the nether. And without scanning or doing any speedrun technique, they somehow manage to locate the bastion almost immediately. But rewind the footage to when they first spawned in. Take a close look at this lava pool. If you look closely, you can actually see that it creates the shape of an arrow. And this arrow points to the exact direction of the bastion. The runner clearly messed with it before recording to point themselves in the correct direction. So after collecting 16 ender pearls, a normal speedrunner would then search for a nearby fortress. But this speedrunner oddly decides to start building a nether portal, even though he hasn't been to a fortress and has 0 blaze rods. Well, instead of using flint and steel to light the portal, they decide to use gold? How is that even possible? Well, the speedrunner enters it and they spawn directly into a fortress. Since when did they add a fortress portal into Minecraft? So the runner finds the blaze spawner where they collect 9 rods very quickly. They then build a normal nether portal and head back into the overworld. And using the process of triangulation, they locate the stronghold and enter the end. Well, do you remember when earlier in the run, the speedrunner found this black stone block in the ruined portal chest? Well, he uses that very block as the final piece to crafting the super infinite matter sword, which deals over 128,000 damage with one swing. And the ender dragon stands no chance against this weapon. This next speedrun begins near a village, and honestly, everything appears to be pretty normal. The world generation looks good, doesn't have any XP in his hotbar, and he appears to be in survival mode. But as he goes to loot one of the village houses, he makes a very obvious mistake. He accidentally presses tab and reveals that he's playing with one other person, something obviously not allowed during a solo speedrun. But it doesn't stop there, because after getting some hay and looting a few more houses, he forgets to mute his mic and you can clearly hear him talking to his friend, the same one on the Minecraft server with him. Let's take a listen.
Yo, you put the diamond in the chest, right?
And it's no surprise when he finds this exact diamond in the next village house that he loots. It's pretty obvious he's using his friend to get OP loot. But this isn't the only help he receives in the speedrun, because as he makes his way to a nearby lava pool, he finds a random water bucket on the ground. And this guy has terrible acting.
Okay guys, basically there's a new feature where water buckets randomly spawn, so we're just gonna use that really quick.
But wait, rewind the footage and take a closer look at this tree, where the same friend we hear him talking to is trying to blend in by using a wood skin. I think it's pretty obvious he's the one who dropped the water bucket there. So he uses the water bucket to begin crafting a nether portal and enters the nether. Now, it would appear that he's traveling in a random direction, but he's actually following these strange particles in the air. And these particles are clearly coming from his friend we saw earlier in the run using an invisibility potion. And this is confirmed when he's unmuted and we can hear him asking his friend to lead him to the fortress. Let's take a listen.
Bro, you're leading me to the fortress, right?
This guy needs to learn how to mute his mic. So he reaches the fortress, kills some blazes, and gets 7 rods. But he doesn't go to a bastion to get ender pearls like in a normal speedrun, because he actually finds an enderman spawner, something that definitely doesn't exist in a fortress. And I'm pretty sure we all know who placed this spawner here. So he heads back to the overworld and it's time for him to locate the stronghold. But notice how he doesn't actually follow this Eye of Ender that he throws, and actually goes in a completely different direction where he somehow magically finds the stronghold. But he makes a huge mistake you may have missed, because in this frame you can clearly see him using the /locate command, which reveals exactly how he knew to dig down at this block. So he finds the end portal room, but make note of the fact that there are 0 eyes in the portal, which is a problem for the runner because he only has 11 eyes. And because you need 12 to finish the portal, he can't travel to the end. But after the speedrunner loots this chest and turns back around, there's been an eye mysteriously placed in the portal. Now, I would be suspicious of the friend we've seen throughout the run, but there's no particles in the air that would point to him being there. But let's take a closer look. Remember when the speedrunner tried to blend in with the tree earlier in the run? You've got to be kidding me. He's trying to blend in with the wall? Well, I guess we know where that extra pearl came from. So the speedrunner enters the end, but notice how he doesn't have any beds, something very commonly used to kill the dragon. But not to worry, because he finds a building called the bed house. What explanation is he gonna give this time?
Guys, let's just go use the new bed house feature they just added in Minecraft.
Yeah, I bet my life savings that this isn't a real feature. So he goes inside the house where there's a sign saying deposit obsidian, and out comes all the beds that he needs to kill the dragon. This next speedrun begins, and on the surface, things appear to be pretty normal. World generation? Check. Survival mode? Check. Selecting the first slot of his inventory? Check. But as the runner makes his way to a nearby village, he randomly decides to add in a hand cam. And while the hand cam itself is completely legit, he's actually using this to cheat. Because rewind the footage to right before the speedrunner added in his hand cam. At this frame, you can actually see the message of a player joining his worlds. This means the speedrunner is playing on a multiplayer server, something that's not only clearly banned from a solo speedrun, but will make more sense very soon. So the runner enters the village, and everything appears to be pretty normal at a first glance, as the runner begins to loot a chest and collect a few beds for later in the run. But as the speedrunner is collecting some hay, take a very close look into the corner of the screen, where it appears as though a ruins portal is being built out of thin air. This is clearly being built by the same player we saw join the world earlier in the run, who is simply using an invisibility potion. So after collecting all of his items from the village, the runner makes his way to the quote-unquote ruins portal. And if you weren't already convinced that it was fake, his friend literally forgot to place a chest for the runner. They are so bad at cheating. So without a chest at the ruins portal, the runner isn't able to get flint and steel, which means he's not able to light the ruins portal. But I guess I must have missed an update, because apparently flint and steel spawns below the blocks of a ruins portal. This is hilariously bad. So after collecting the flint and steel, the runner lights their portal and makes their way into the nether. And while the spawn itself is completely normal, take a very close look into the right side of the screen when the runner spawns in. It's his friend once again, using the exact same nether portal as the speedrunner. So once in the nether, the speedrunner decides to look for a bastion. Now, I want you to take a very close look at this part of the nether where there is clearly not a single bastion in sight. Well, the speedrunner turns around for a brief second to switch a few items around in his inventory, and when he turns back around, he's face to face with a bastion. Now, I could just be saying things, but there's actually something that proves this is definitely fake. Because at this exact frame, we can see the speedrunner's camera angle turn slightly to the right. It's pretty obvious that the speedrunner cut his video, went off camera to find a bastion, and pretended it was there the entire time. So the runner enters into the bastion, and for the first time in the entire speedrun, things appear to be pretty normal. As the runner locates some gold blocks, crafts some ingots, and starts to trade with piglins. Now, on the surface, everything looks to be completely legit with these trades, but there's actually one singular piglin that is incredibly suspicious. Watch, for 4 straight trades, the piglin drops ender pearls every single time. And while technically it isn't impossible, after literally asking ChatGPT, this only has a 0.0000226% chance of happening. Now, I almost would have believed that this speedrunner has insane luck, until during this part of the footage, we can see the piglin scrolling through a bunch of random items. If you haven't caught on, this isn't actually a real piglin, but his friend using a morph mod, which explains how every single trade was ender pearls. So, after collecting all of the items that he needs, the runner leaves the bastion and starts to search for a fortress. And after running in a very clear specific path, the runner is easily able to find the nether fortress. But let's rewind the footage footage to before the speedrunner started taking this suspicious path. If you look closely, you'll actually see that these blocks of nether quartz actually form the shape of an arrow. And if you play the footage, it's pretty obvious the runner followed this exact arrow straight to the fortress. And if you weren't already convinced, at this exact frame, you can actually see the runner's friend holding a block of nether quartz, confirming he's the one who built it. So, after locating the fortress, the runner begins to search for a blaze spawner, and he actually manages to locate one pretty quickly. There's just one issue. This clearly isn't what a naturally spawning blaze spawner looks like. It's so obvious this wish.com version of a blaze spawner was built by his friend. Either way, giving him some credit, he handles the blazes pretty normally and gets the 7 rods that he needs fairly quickly. And when he turns around, he finds a fully lit nether portal already built, and I don't even have to explain how that got there. So, the runner enters the portal built clearly by his friend and spawns into the overworld. And for some reason, even though he's literally been cheating throughout the entire speedrun, he actually decides to find the location of the strongholds normally, by using the popular technique known as triangulation to find where it is. But that's the last normal thing that's going to occur in this speedrun, because as the speedrunner is digging down, he digs all the way into the end, even though we clearly never saw him enter an end portal at all, and he still has every single eye of ender in his inventory. While it's pretty obvious this is fake, I have no idea how that just happened. So, after digging straight into the end, the runner still has the task of defeating the ender dragon. And as the speedrunner is walking on the surface, he finds one enderman that isn't like the rest. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, this is actually hilarious. It's so clearly fake that it's funny. So, the speedrunner approaches this quote-unquote enderman, and after staring into his eyes, the enderman casually drops the speedrunner an entire stack of golden apples, full netherite gear, an unnecessary amount of bows, and then has the audacity to place down a chest with an insane amount of arrows. So, with all of this extremely overpowered loot, you'd expect the speedrunner to have no problem defeating the ender dragon. But you'd be terribly mistaken, because after missing literally every single one of his shots for 1 minute straight, he actually gets killed by the ender dragon. I guess that's what he deserves for cheating so terribly. This next speedrun begins, and on the surface, it appears fairly normal. Survival mode, check. First slot of the inventory selected, check. And he's facing straight. So what could possibly be fake about this speedrun? Well, if you look extremely closely into the top corner of the screen, you can spot a parrot. And while the parrot itself is completely normal, this actually proves that the spawn is completely fake. Because rewind the footage to the loading screen before the runner generated his world. This is the loading screen for the Minecraft version 1.8.9. The problem is, parrots were not introduced into Minecraft until 1.12. This means that the footage of him loading into the game and his spawn are actually 2 different Minecraft versions and clips edited together. And the speedrunner is likely using a set seed. So, the runner gathers some wood, crafts some tools, and finds a nearby village. Now, right off the bat, there's already something wrong, because take a very close look at the loot in this village chest. While it may seem fairly innocent on the surface, one item is completely fake, and that's this bucket. Buckets can only spawn in one specific village house, a savannah house. But if we rewind the footage, we can clearly see this isn't a savannah house, meaning the runner placed the bucket in the chest himself off camera. But that isn't all that's fake with this part of the speedrun, because when the speedrunner leaves the village house, he's suddenly greeted with a ruins portal right in front of him. The problem is, there was clearly no ruins portal anywhere in this village before he entered the house. So how is this possible? Well, if we take a closer look at the speedrunner's audio when he's in the village house, we can actually see that there is a clear cut in the recording. Listen, I'll play the audio for you where the cut is pretty obvious. Most likely, the speedrunner cut the footage, went to a completely different village that contained a ruins portal, and pretended it was there the entire time. So the runner goes to the ruins portal, but there's a bit of a problem. The runner is left just 1 block short of completing the ruins portal. So how is he gonna go to the nether without a completed ruins portal? Well, he decides to pull out his iron pickaxe and starts mining this block of obsidian. Okay, is this guy new to Minecraft? Everyone knows you need a diamond pickaxe to collect the obsidian. Oh my gosh, it actually worked. I honestly have no idea how he did that, and I don't even want to question it. So the runner places the final piece of obsidian, lights the portal, and makes his way into the nether. Now, on the surface, nothing suspicious seemed to have happened. He's still in survival mode, he doesn't have any strange potion effects, and everything appears to be completely legit. But take a very close look at the speedrunner's armor bar. Before the runner entered the nether, the bar was only at half a tick. But when the speedrunner spawned into the nether, the bar has mysteriously jumped to 1.5 ticks. And when the speedrunner opens his inventory, we can actually see that he has mysteriously acquired a gold helmet, even though we clearly didn't see him have this before he spawned into the nether. Well, if we rewind the footage, we can actually spot the exact moment where the speedrunner cheated, because at this frame, we can actually see the loading screen cut. It's pretty obvious the runner cut the video and got the gold helmet off camera, as he knew it would make trading with piglins much easier. So the runner finds the nearby bastion, and with his gold helmet, collecting 16 ender pearls is pretty easy. Now, looting the bastion was completely normal. However, the fortress is a completely different story, because let's take a very close look at the loot drops when the runner fights the blazes. He kills the first blaze and gets 1 rod. Completely normal. And when he kills the second blaze, he again only gets 1 rod. But the issue arises on his third blaze, because when he kills it, he somehow has 2 blaze rods drop in front of him. This is clearly impossible, as blazes can only drop a max of 1 rod per blaze. Well, let's rewind the footage and look a little bit closer. If we slow the footage down, notice that at this frame, we can actually spot another player standing right above him. And notice how the blaze rods drop right under where he's standing. It's pretty obvious this second blaze rod was thrown by the player's friend. So, after collecting all the rods and pearls he needs, a normal speedrunner would build a nether portal and head back to the overworld. But this guy seems to have a slightly different plan, because he drinks a potion of fire resistance, jumps in this huge lava pool, and ends up falling directly into the strongholds. How is that even possible? So the runner enters the stronghold, and this is where things get straight embarrassing, because it would appear as though the runner gets super lucky and finds the end portal room very quickly. But one listen to his audio reveals how bad he is at cheating. Let's take a listen.
Yo, go up those stairs. All right, left. Go left. Yeah, down, down. Okay, right. Go right. Yeah, door right there.
His friend is literally directing him straight to the end portal room. I don't think this guy realizes his mic was unmuted the entire speedrun. So, the runner finishes the portal and heads into the end, where the speedrunner finds Mr. Beast? Is that the real one or just his friend we saw a couple minutes ago? Well, Mr. Beast types in the chat that he'll give the speedrunner $10,000 if he jumps into the void. And he must have taken the offer, because the run just ends there. This next speedrun begins, but there's already something fake about it. No, it's not his game mode, as we can clearly see he's in survival. And it's also not his spawn, as the runner is facing completely straight. But take a closer look into the bottom corner of the screen, where we can clearly see the faintest message of a player changing their game mode to survival. This means that the speedrunner was in creative before he started recording, which will make more sense very soon. So the run begins with the speedrunner collecting some stone, crafting a few tools, and making their way to a nearby village. And while the village itself is completely normal, the speedrunner actually just cheated. Because let's rewind the footage to before the runner started searching for the village. If you look closely, you'll actually notice these strange white formations in the sky. And if we play the footage, notice how the speedrunner has been following them all the way to the village. It's pretty obvious the speedrunner built these formations formations to lead himself to the village, hoping we would think they were clouds. So the runner enters the village, and thankfully, things appear to be completely normal, as the runner starts off by collecting a handful of beds, and when killing the iron golem, he gets a normal amount of ingots. But things start to get suspicious when the runner enters this village house, because while the loot in this chest is completely normal, the chest itself is completely fake. Because let's rewind the footage and take a very close look at the specific village house he's in. This is an armor house. The problem is, chests only spawn in this type of village house in a snowy biome, which the runner clearly is not in. This means the runner placed this chest himself off camera, likely to get more iron so he could craft flint and steel. So the runner finishes gathering his loot before beginning to search for a nearby ruins portal, and giving him the benefit of the doubt, he locates one pretty normally. But after looting the ruins portal chest, he ends up being just one block short of completing the portal. Well, the runner decides to pull out his iron pickaxe, breaks the ruin portal chest, which reveals a ladder all the way down to another ruins portal that is already fully completed. I have no idea what just happened. So, the runner enters the second ruins portal room, lights the portal, and makes his way into the nether. And giving him the benefit of the doubt, his spawn is completely normal, and the runner begins to search for a nearby fortress. And the speedrunner quickly locates one, but there's just one slight issue. This fortress is located on the opposite side of this ginormous lava pool, and without any ender pearls or enough blocks in his inventory, it's pretty much impossible for the runner to get there. Well, the speedrunner pulls out a couple eggs from his inventory he collected earlier in the run, and randomly throws one in the direction of the fortress. Okay, this guy must be bored. I have no idea why he's doing this. Oh my gosh. He just used an egg as an ender pearl and teleported into the fortress. I don't even want to question it. So the runner enters the fortress, and like a normal speedrunner would, begins to search for a blaze spawner. But even though there is no blaze spawner at the end of this hallway, the speedrunner still decides to run towards it, which is extremely weird, as this is wasting incredibly valuable time in the speedrun. Well, the runner runs towards the end of the hallway before phasing through the wall, and he's greeted with a blaze spawner directly in his face. This guy is actually insane. So, after literally teleporting through a wall, the runner begins to fight the blazes at the blaze spawner. And after about a minute, the runner collects 7 blaze rods, the standard amount a speedrunner needs to continue the run. But let's rewind the footage and take a closer look, because the speedrunner actually just cheated. Because for the first blaze, the runner kills it and collects 1 rod. Legit. For the second blaze, the runner also kills it and gets another rod. Nothing wrong yet. But when fighting the third blaze, the runner actually collects 2 rods, which is literally impossible, as blazes can only drop a max of 1 rod per blaze. It's pretty obvious the runner messed with the game files and hoped we wouldn't notice him get an extra rod from this blaze. So, after collecting all the rods that he needs, a normal speedrunner would then begin to search for a bastion. But this speedrunner seems to have a slightly different plan, because the runner digs a couple blocks down before randomly starting to tunnel underground. And after only 10 seconds of digging, the runner breaks the block above him, and he's magically in a bastion. But hold on, rewind the footage to when the runner is digging underground. In this part of the clip, you can actually see that the pickaxe magically regained all its durability, which reveals there is a cut in the video to hide that the speedrunner likely went off camera, located the bastion, and pretended to dig up to it. So, the runner enters the bastion and starts looking for gold blocks to craft golden ingots and trade with piglins. And the runner manages to locate a vein of gold blocks pretty quickly. The problem is, it's literally impossible for gold blocks to spawn naturally in this part of the bastion, meaning the runner simply placed them here in creative mode to give himself an advantage. So, after mining the gold blocks and crafting all the gold ingots that he needs, the runner finds a group of nearby piglins and begins to trade with them. And in the beginning, things are completely normal, as all of the items he's collecting are standard items from a piglin trade. But let's watch this part of the footage very closely. Did you catch that? The The runner clearly hit one of the piglins, but none of them attacked him back. This is only possible if the runner is in peaceful mode, something clearly not allowed during the speedrun. Well, if we rewind the footage and take a closer look at this frame, we can see the faintest message of the player switching his difficulty to peaceful. So, after a couple more trades with the piglins, the runner collects his ender pearls and needs to head back to the overworld. The only problem is, the runner only has 9 blocks of obsidian, which would make him just 1 block short of completing the portal. Well, the runner still starts to craft a nether portal and decides to use a hay bale as the final block in the portal. Okay, this guy has to be joking. This clearly isn't gonna work. Oh my gosh, the portal lighted. I'm just gonna be honest, I have no idea how that just worked. So, after entering a portal with a hay bale in it, the runner spawns back into the overworld. And right off the bat, the speedrunner cheats again, as we can clearly see the command of a player giving himself speed that he forgot to cut out. Either way, the runner starts throwing his Eyes of Ender, and using triangulation, locates the position of the strongholds. But as he's digging down from the surface, something incredibly suspicious happens. Because there's a clear cut in the video at this part of the footage, as his Eyes of Ender jump from 8 pearls to 10 pearls. And when the runner finally enters the stronghold and locates the Ends portal room, he of course now has the exact amount of pearls needed to complete the portal. It's pretty obvious the runner cut the video, went off camera to see how many pearls he would need for the portal, and pretended that nothing happened. So, the runner completes the portal, jumps in, and enters into the Ends, where thankfully, things appear pretty normal at first, with the dragon still having full health and the runner spawning in a completely normal location. But as the runner is innocently running on the surface, out from the sky drops a bow with literally every single enchantment in the game. And without breaking any of the crystals, the runner pulls out his bow and literally 2 shots the Ender Dragon. This next speedrun begins, and at a first glance, everything appears to be pretty normal. The runner is selecting the first slot of their inventory, they're in survival mode with 0 XP, and they're also facing completely straight. However, did you notice that when the runner spawned in, his game menu was actually open? This is something that's impossible, as in a real Minecraft speedrun, you can never spawn in with your menu open. This proves that the world generation was completely fake, and the runner is playing on a world he's likely already been on, which makes even more sense when you notice the runner not only spawns in front of a village, but there's also a ruins portal extremely close to his spawn. Either way, the run begins with the runner mining some wood, crafting himself a couple tools, and entering the nearby village, where the runner actually comes across 3 iron golems in one single village. And while it's technically possible that these spawn naturally, there's one small detail which reveals 2 of them are completely fake. Because notice how when the runner hits the first golem, it immediately starts to attack. However, when the runner hits the other 2 golems, neither of them act hostile towards the speedrunner. This is only possible if the speedrunner built these 2 iron golems off camera, as iron golems you build yourself will never attack back no matter how many times you hit it. So, the runner kills all 3 iron golems, where they collect a ton of iron, gather a couple beds and hay from the village, and make their way to the nearby ruins portal. Now, I want you to take a mental image of this nether portal at this frame. Got it? Well, the runner moves towards it, where they gather a little extra wood on the way, where it seems as though they get extremely lucky, as they find the exact amount of obsidian they need in the ruins portal chest. But let's rewind the footage to just a few seconds ago, because this is actually completely fake. Because look, at this frame, we can clearly see the ruins portal looks like this. However, after the runner went to collect wood from this tree, one more piece of obsidian has been placed in the top left corner. This proves there was a cut in the recording where the runner likely went off camera and placed an extra piece of obsidian on the portal. So the runner loots the ruin portal chest, completes the portal, and spawns into the nether, where they actually spawn in a pretty terrible location, as they're enclosed by blocks all around them. Well, while this may appear to be unlucky, this is actually yet another way the speedrunner has cheated, because it's actually impossible for a nether portal to spawn you completely enclosed in blocks. because when the runner starts destroying the blocks around them, he breaks directly into a fortress. This guy is terrible at cheating. So, the runner enters the fortress, where they begin their search for a nearby blaze spawner, and they actually locate one fairly quickly, where they start fighting blazes and collecting blaze rods. Now, you probably missed it, but this part of the speedrun is actually completely fake, because in a nether fortress, blazes can only start spawning when a player is within 16 blocks of the spawner. However, at this frame, we can clearly see a handful of blazes have already spawned in, even though the runner is clearly farther than 16 blocks away. This means that the runner spawned in these blazes himself off camera, likely to have a better chance at collecting blaze rods. So, the runner makes their way to the spawner, where they kill a few blazes and start collecting blaze rods pretty quickly. But the runner actually starts to leave the fortress after they only collect 5 blaze rods, which is far less than the 7 a normal speedrunner would collect. And while this may seem odd, this will make more sense later in the run. So, after collecting the rods the speedrunner needs, they begin their search for a nearby bastion. But out of nowhere, the speedrunner randomly decides to start digging down at this exact block. And after only a few seconds of digging, the runner drops down into a bastion. But hold on, that's literally impossible. There's no way the runner could have known the bastion was under this random block. Well, let's actually rewind the footage and take a closer look at what happened. Do you notice this group of fossils that is located directly next to where the speedrunner dug down from? Well, the fossils themselves are actually completely legitimate. However, where they spawn in are completely fake, because nether fossils can only spawn in one specific biome, a soul sand valley. But if we look at the footage, we can clearly see this is not a soul sand valley. This actually means the runner built these fossils himself in creative mode to remind him that a bastion was located under these blocks. So, the runner enters the bastion, where they collect a few gold blocks, craft some ingots, and starts to trade with the piglins. But these are some of the goofiest piglins I've ever seen in Minecraft, because they start dropping some of the most random items I've ever seen. Pink wool, music discs, oak planks. What is wrong with these piglins? Well, among all of the really weird trades that the piglins are making, there's one specific item that's extremely important for the speedrun, which is when the runner gets this redstone torch. Remember this item for later in the run. So, after a handful of terrible items, the runner finally gets the ender pearls that he needs. But once again, the runner collects far less ender pearls than a normal speedrunner would collect, as he only gathers 10. Remember these 10 pearls along with the 5 blaze rods for later in the run. So, after collecting his loot, the runner uses the obsidian he got from the piglins to craft a nether portal and head back to the overworld, where they start throwing their eyes of ender in hopes of locating a stronghold. But they seem to be having a lot of trouble with this process, as they simply can't seem to find the right location. Well, the runner pulls out the redstone torch he received from the piglin trade, where he places it on this random block, which actually opens up a hole in the ground, revealing a ladder all the way down to the stronghold. What just happened? So, the runner enters the stronghold, where like a normal speedrunner would, they begin to search for the end portal room, and the runner actually manages to locate it pretty quickly. There's just one slight issue. What kind of cursed end portal is that? It's literally vertical and shaped like a nether portal. Is this a new feature? Well, do you remember when the speedrunner only collected 5 blaze rods and 10 pearls earlier in the run? That means the runner can only craft 10 eyes of ender, which is actually the perfect amount that he needs to light this vertical end portal. But come on, there's actually no way this portal lights. It's not even possible. Oh my god, it actually worked. What am I even looking at right now? So, the runner enters the vertical end portal, where they actually spawn into the end. And thankfully, their spawn is pretty legit, as the runner is still in survival mode, the dragon has full health, and he doesn't have any strange potion effects in the corner of the screen. But when the runner goes to the surface, is that a creeper ender dragon? How many updates did I miss? Well, when the creeper ender dragon finally perches, the runner immediately heads towards it to attack. But the creeper dragon actually explodes, completely killing the speedrunner. I guess the runner should have known that would would come from the creeper dragon. This next speedrun begins, and there's already something fake about it. Like we've seen many times before, there's a message about a player joining the worlds, which reveals this speedrun is on a multiplayer server, something clearly not allowed during a solo speedrun. Remember this for later, as it will become a hilarious part of the speedrun. So the speedrun begins, and honestly, it looks pretty normal. The runner goes to mine a few trees, crafts a few tools, and the runner starts to look for a village. And he actually manages to find one pretty quickly, which is bizarre considering he would have no way to know its location. Well, let's rewind the footage to right before the speedrunner started looking for the village. If you look closely into the sky, you'll actually notice these strange particles floating around. These particles actually come from a player using an invisibility potion, which is clearly being used by the friend we saw join the worlds. And if you play the footage, you'll notice the speedrunner has been following these invisibility particles all the way to the village. So, after locating the village, the runner begins to search for some valuable loot. And after collecting some beds and some hay, the runner goes to loot the chest in this village house, where he finds some pretty standard loot. Some potatoes, bread, the Moretooth. Wait, what? I feel bad for this village. So, after destroying an entire village, the runner begins to search for a nearby ruins portal. And this is when the speedrunner thinks it's the perfect time to advertise his YouTube channel, where he adds in a subscribe logo in the bottom left corner of the screen. But right after he does this, he immediately seems to know the exact location of a ruins portal. Well, let's rewind the footage to right before the speedrunner added in the subscribe logo. You can actually see the faintest message of the speedrunner using a /locate command for the ruins portal, but added in the subscribe logo just one frame too late. It's pretty obvious he was trying to hide the fact that he was cheating with this logo. So the runner arrives at the ruin portal, loots the chest, but unfortunately doesn't have enough obsidian to complete the portal. But as the runner is mining this gold block, you can actually hear the sound of a chest opening. And when the speedrunner returns, there's magically 2 more obsidian that's been added to the chest, the exact amount he needs to complete the portal. It's pretty obvious his friend put these pieces of obsidian in the chest while the speedrunner was looking away and mining this gold block. So the runner grabs the obsidian from the chest, completes the portal, and makes his way into the nether, where he spawns in a very interesting place. A singular block in the middle of a lava pool. But when the speedrunner turns around, he's greeted with a literal parkour course all the way to a fortress. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this can't spawn naturally. So the speedrunner starts doing parkour during a speedrun, and he's actually doing pretty well until he misses a jump and starts falling towards the lava. So he's clearly going to die, right? Wrong, because the speedrunner changes his game mode to creative, flies back up, and pretends like nothing even happened, typing in the chat that is computer glitch. I guess a computer glitch is the new term for being terrible at parkour. So on his second attempt, the runner does much better, making it all the way to his final jump. But when he tries to jump in the fortress, he gets completely denied by a barrier block.
Dude, stop trolling.
And he's clearly talking to his friend, because if you look into the corner of the screen, you can see the same friend we've seen throughout the run holding a barrier block. This guy just got trolled in a speedrun. So after respawning, the runner collects some loot from the village and makes his way back to the nether, where he finally enters the fortress, where thankfully things are pretty normal as the runner fights a couple of blazes. But the runner only decides to get 3 blaze rods, which is far less than the usual a normal speedrunner would collect. But don't worry, this will make more sense very soon. So after collecting the rods that he needs, the runner begins to search for a nearby bastion, where he uses a pretty common technique of scanning the amount of entities to lead him to a possible bastion. But if you actually watch what he's doing, he doesn't actually travel in the direction with the most entities, but travels in a completely different direction. Well, after only about 30 seconds of running in the wrong direction, the runner finds something pretty strange. Is that a a roller coaster? You have to be kidding me. Well, the runner enters the minecart in the nether roller coaster, and after a quick ride, he is dropped off directly in front of a bastion. And I'm pretty sure we all know who built this roller coaster. So the runner enters the bastion, collects some gold, and starts to trade with some piglins. And for the first few trades, things appear to be pretty normal as the runner is getting pretty standard loot. But the runner then gets a blaze rod from a piglin trade, which is not only an impossible item to receive from a piglin, but now it makes sense why he got so few in the fortress. So after collecting all the pearls and rods that he needs, a normal speedrunner would make their way back to the overworlds to look for a stronghold and enter the ends. The only problem is, the speedrunner doesn't have quite enough obsidian to build a portal, so how will he teleport to the overworlds? Well, out of nowhere, his friend flies into the screen and starts to type in the chat, where he types the message, "I'll build the portal for you if you buy me 1,000 V-Bucks. You've got to be kidding me. Well, the runner types in chat that he agrees, and the friend starts to build the nether portal. But right before the speedrunner enters the portal, he types in chat, "Scammer get scammed," and travels to the overworld. I guess that means his friend won't be getting those V-Bucks. So the runner enters the overworld, and using his Eyes of Ender, starts to throw them in hopes of locating the strongholds. And after finding the correct location, he digs down to enter the stronghold, where he starts to search for the end portal room, which he seems to locate incredibly quickly, which is bizarre considering he would have no way of knowing its location. Well, let's rewind the footage and take a closer look at what happened. If you look closely, you'll notice these random blocks of cobblestone scattered throughout the strongholds. And if you pay close attention, you'll notice the runner has been following these cobblestone blocks all the way to the end portal room. It's pretty obvious he placed them here before recording to lead him in the correct direction. So the runner enters the room and using his Eyes of Ender successfully completes the end portal, where he spawns into the end with everything looking pretty legit, with no strange items in his inventory and a dragon at full health. But as the speedrunner is casually walking on the surface, take a closer look at this end pillar, where if you look very closely, you can actually see a player wearing an obsidian skin trying to blend in, which is clearly the same player we've seen throughout the speedrun. Well, I guess this player wasn't too happy about not getting his V-Bucks because he pulls out a diamond sword and starts chasing the speedrunner, and actually manages to kill him before the runner even got a chance to fight the dragon. And the speedrun just ends there. This next speedrun begins with the runner spawning directly next to a shipwreck, where he's selecting the first slot in his inventory, he's in survival mode, and he doesn't have any strange item in his hotbar. All pretty legit. But let's take a very close look at the speedrunner's crosshair. In a real Minecraft speedrun, your crosshair will always face completely parallel with the surrounding blocks. However, in this speedrun, you can see that the crosshair is actually facing slightly down from the center. This means that the world generation was fake and the runner has already been on this world, which will make more sense in a few seconds. So, after collecting some wood from a tree and crafting a couple tools, the runner makes his way to the nearby shipwreck. Now, I want you to pay very close attention to how the speedrunner makes their way to the shipwreck. Did you catch it? Even though the speedrunner was underwater the entire time, he didn't lose a single tick of oxygen from his oxygen bar. But how is that possible? Well, move your focus to the very top right of the screen, where the runner has suddenly decided to add in a face cam. And it's no coincidence he placed this in the exact same spot that potion effects are shown in Minecraft. It's pretty obvious the runner got a water-breathing potion off camera to travel to the shipwreck much faster, and tried to add in a face cam to hide his potion, but failed miserably. So, the runner reaches the shipwreck, where they go inside and begin to loot the chests. But before the speedrunner opens the chest, take a very close look at it. If you look extremely closely, you'll actually notice this red border around the lock of the chest, which means this chest is a trap chest, something that doesn't naturally spawn in a shipwreck. And the loot inside is also completely fake, as it's impossible for both obsidian and flint and steel to spawn in this chest. It's pretty obvious the runner placed this chest himself before recording, but accidentally placed a trapped one instead of a normal one. So after looting the shipwreck, the runner makes their way back to shore before beginning to search for a ruins portal. And they manage to find a ruins portal pretty quickly, but there's just one issue. It's extremely obvious that this isn't a naturally spawning ruins portal, but one that the runner made himself in creative. Because first, the runner clearly forgot to to place a chest here as there's none to be seen. Secondly, he accidentally built the ruins portal with nether brick instead of netherrack. And finally, he just so happens to have the perfect amount of obsidian left to complete the portal. This is just embarrassing. So, after lighting the ruins portal, the runner spawns into the nether and things finally appear to be normal. The runner is still in survival mode, they haven't gotten any strange items in their inventory, and they don't have any weird potion effects either. But things only get worse when the runner starts to search for a bastion, because as the runner is navigating through the nether, take a very close look at this ghast. To start, it's not even possible for this ghast to spawn here, as the runner is in a crimson forest, a biome that ghast can't naturally spawn in. Secondly, this ghast is moving incredibly suspiciously and doesn't throw any fireballs even after looking directly at the runner. And thirdly, this ghast actually leads the speedrunner straight to the location of a bastion. If you haven't caught on already, this clearly isn't a real ghast, but another player using a ghast morph mod to lead the speedrunner straight to the bastion. So the runner locates the bastion, crafts an iron pickaxe, before collecting some gold and starting to trade with piglins. Now, giving him the benefit of the doubt, 99% of the trades he makes with the piglins are perfectly legit, as the runner collects some ender pearls, gold, and even some obsidian. However, there is one singular trade that is completely fake, which is when the runner gets this piece of pink wool, which is an item that is impossible to receive from a piglin, so remember it for later. So, after collecting all the items that he needs, the runner begins to search for a nearby fortress. And to my surprise, after following a very specific path, the runner is easily able to locate one. But hold on, let's rewind the footage and take a closer look. Remember when earlier in the speedrun, the runner was following this ghast to the bastion? Well, take a closer look at this magma cube, where if you pay close attention, has been leading the speedrunner all the way to the fortress. This is clearly the same person who is pretending to be a ghast, using his morph mod to be a magma cube. So the runner finds the fortress, enters it, and starts looking for a blaze spawn. But this speedrunner simply can't seem to find a blaze spawner anywhere in the fortress. So the runner makes the decision to leave the fortress and heads toward this random wall, where he breaks 4 very specific blocks, revealing a hole with his own personal stash of blazes. I don't even know what's happening. So, with all these blazes, it would be pretty easy for the runner to collect a ton of rods. But he only decides to collect 2 blaze rods, which is incredibly suspicious, but will make more sense later in the run. So, after collecting his items, the runner uses the obsidian he got from the bastion and builds a nether portal. And unlike something we'll see later in the speedrun, he enters a pretty normal nether portal and makes his way into the overworld. But his spawn is awfully suspicious, because the runner spawns into a cave where he can literally see the strongholds. Well, let's rewind the footage and take a closer look at his spawn. If you play the footage frame by frame, you can actually see that the speedrunner spawned in a completely different location, and simply edited his video together to make it seem like he spawned directly in front of the strongholds. This guy is so bad at cheating. So the runner enters the strongholds and immediately starts to search for the end portal room. And surprisingly, he locates the end portal room extremely quickly, which is bizarre considering he didn't use any techniques to locate it like a real speedrunner would. Well, do you remember earlier in the run where he followed both a ghast and magma cube to different locations? Take a closer look at this spider he's been following all the way to the stronghold. It's clearly the same friend we've seen throughout the run, again using a morph mod. So the runner enters the end portal room, and here's where things get crazy. Do you remember when the runner only gathered 2 blaze rods from the nether? Well, that means he only has 4 eyes of ender, far less than the 12 he would need to complete an end portal. Well, the runner goes to the portal, and you've got to be kidding me. This is the goofiest end portal I've ever seen. Okay, there's no way this is actually going to light. Oh my gosh, it worked. You know what? I'm not even gonna question it. So the runner enters the smallest end portal in the world and makes his way into the end, where thankfully his spawn is completely normal. He's still in survival mode, the dragon doesn't have any health missing from his bar, and he doesn't have any strange items in his inventory. Well, not yet he does, because the runner places down a crafting table and starts to craft a very strange item. Now, do you remember when the speedrunner got this pink piece of wool from the piglin earlier in the run? Well, he uses that very block as the final item in crafting the violet demise. And with this insanely overpowered item, the runner makes quick work of the Ender Dragon. This next speedrun begins with the runner mining some wood, crafting a few tools, and locating a nearby village, where right off the bat, there's already something fake about this speedrun. Because when the runner goes to loot this village chest, he finds this potion of fire resistance, which is an item that can't spawn naturally in a village chest, so remember it for later. The run continues with the speedrunner collecting a few beds, gathering some hay, before they start searching for the iron golem. But before the runner goes to kill it, he starts acting incredibly weird. Take a listen.
Iron Golem and your friends fly high into the sky on my command.
Is he trying to put the mobs in a trance? Well, after only a few seconds go by, the mobs in the village start magically floating in the air. What am I watching? So, after hypnotizing the mobs in the village, the runner kills the iron golem, collects his iron, and makes his way to a nearby ruined portal. And while it looks like the runner gets lucky, as they get the exact amount of obsidian they need to complete the portal, the problem is, 2 of the blocks in the portal are crying obsidian, which means this portal won't be able to light. However, the runner still decides to pull out his flint and steel, and what? How did the portal just light? I am so confused. So, the runner lights the portal, enters it, and they spawn into the nether. And at a first glance, it would appear as though the runner gets incredibly lucky, spawning directly next to a fortress. However, there's something about this spawn that's completely fake, because if you look closely, you'll actually notice this lava has already flowed towards the ground. In a real speedrun, lava can't start flowing until you spawn into the nether. So, this flowing lava means the runner has already been in the nether, which explains why he spawned directly next to a fortress. So, the runner enters a nearby fortress, where they immediately start to look for the blaze spawner room. But as he's doing this, let's take a closer look at the fortress. Do you notice how there doesn't seem to be a single mob anywhere in the fortress? Well, when the runner goes to change his FOV, he accidentally reveals that his game mode is set to peaceful, which means hostile mobs can't spawn. Not to mention, peaceful mode is obviously not allowed during a speedrun. However, when the runner finally locates the blaze spawner room, blazes actually start to spawn while the runner is in peaceful mode. This is literally impossible because after I tested this out for myself, you can't even manually spawn blazes while in peaceful mode. So not only is the runner cheating, but I have no idea how the blazes have spawned in. So the runner starts fighting the blazes, where he's getting incredibly lucky with his drops. And the runner actually manages to collect 7 rods pretty quickly. However, instead of leaving the fortress as soon as he has 7 rods, the runner continues to fight blazes, which is incredibly bizarre, as 7 is more than enough to continue the run. But the runner continues to fight blazes until he has 12 blaze rods, which has not only wasted a ton of time, but will make more sense very soon. So, after collecting his rods, a normal speedrunner would then make their way to a bastion. But on his way, the runner comes across a Ferrari in Minecraft? How many updates did I miss? Well, the runner actually hops into the Ferrari and starts driving around the nether. I've seen it all in Minecraft speedruns. So, the runner drives the Ferrari all the way to the bastion, where thankfully, things seem pretty normal. As the runner collects gold blocks, crafts a few ingots, and starts to trade with some nearby piglins. But this is when the strangest thing starts to happen, because after the runner throws his gold, take a very close look at these piglins, where we can clearly see that some of them are making trades without any gold ingots in their hands. And I'm not gonna lie, I have no idea how that's possible. So, the runner finishes trading with the piglins, where he gets some pretty standard loot. But instead of leaving the bastion after collecting 12 ender pearls, he waits until he receives 16 pearls, which, like the blaze rods, is far more than a normal speedrunner would collect, so remember this for later. So, after collecting his items, the runner grabs his obsidian and starts to craft a nether portal. But if you look closely, you'll actually notice he seemed to build this portal in a very specific location. And to nobody's surprise, the runner spawns in directly into a stronghold. So, the runner enters the strongholds, we're giving them credit, they find the end portal room very quickly. But let's actually take a closer look at this part of the speedrun because the speedrunner actually just cheated. Because take a closer look at the roof in the strongholds. If you look closely, you'll notice a very obvious line of cobblestone in the middle of the roof. The issue is, in a real strongholds, cobblestone does not naturally spawn here at all. And if you play the footage, the runner actually follows this cobblestone line all the way to the end portal room. It's pretty obvious the runner built this here before recording, so he remembered which direction to travel in. So, the runner quickly enters the end portal room, but this is where things get absolutely crazy. Do you remember how the runner collected 12 blaze rods from the fortress and 16 ender pearls from the bastion? Well, this means the runner has 16 eyes of ender, which is far more than you need to light an end portal. Until when the runner enters the room... What? This is the biggest end portal I've ever seen. And if you look closely, you'll notice this giant end portal actually has 16 slots for Eyes of Ender. And it now makes sense why the runner collected extra rods and pearls in the nether. So the runner lights the portal, spawns into the ends, where thankfully things appear to be pretty normal. The dragon's at full health, the runner is still in survival mode, and he doesn't have any strange items in his inventory. But when the runner goes to the surface, there is not a single end pillar in sight. And without any end crystals to heal the ender dragon, the runner pretty easily destroys him. This next speedrun begins with the runner spawning directly next to a shipwreck, where there's already something fake about the speedrun. Because if you take a very close look at the speedrunner's hotbar, you can actually see that the speedrunner is missing the slightest amount of hunger. This proves that the speedrunner has already played on this world, which will make more sense very soon. So the speedrun begins with the runner mining some wood, crafting a few tools, and making their way to the nearby shipwreck. But as the speedrunner is swimming towards the shipwreck, something incredibly strange happens. At this part of the clip, you can actually see that the speedrunner randomly gets 3 iron ingots in their inventory. But how is that possible? Well, if we rewind the footage and slow it down, take a very close look into the corner of the screen, where you can clearly see another player holding iron ingots in their hands. And if you play the footage, you'll notice that this player threw the iron ingots towards the runner as soon as he swam by. It's pretty obvious this player is the speedrunner's friend, who is clearly helping him gain an advantage in the speedrun. So the runner enters the shipwreck and immediately starts to loot the shipwreck chests. And right off the bat, there's something very suspicious about the first chest. Because in a real shipwreck, this chest is supposed to be on this block. But in this shipwreck, you can clearly see the chest is on this block. And while some of the loot inside the chest is fairly normal, a few items such as obsidian and flint and steel can't actually spawn here. It's pretty obvious the runner placed this chest here himself before recording, which is why he was missing a sliver of hunger earlier in the run. So after looting the chests in the shipwreck, the runner makes his way to a nearby village. And at the start, everything in this village appears to be pretty normal, as the first 2 houses that he enters contain completely normal village items. But the speedrunner then finds the ruined portal house? Did I miss an update? So after spotting the ruined portal house, the runner enters it and sees this strange lever on the wall. And after activating it, it reveals a ladder going all the way down to a ruined portal. And in perfect fake speedrun fashion, he has the exact amount of obsidian in his inventory to complete the portal. So after finding the ruined portal house, the runner lights the portal and makes his way into the nether. Now, a normal speedrunner would likely begin to search for either a bastion or a fortress, hoping to collect items for completing the speedrun. However, this speedrunner doesn't travel to either of them and instead finds Jackson's lucky loot compound. Did I miss an update? And if you look closely, this player head right in front of the house is the exact same player who gave the speedrunner iron earlier in the run. So the speedrunner enters Jackson's lucky loot compound, where he sees the message to enter his password. So the runner grabs the book and clearly has no idea what to type, until he gets a message in the chat reading its password. This is just hilarious at this point. So the speedrunner enters the password and a chest is then revealed. And this chest has some of the most overpowered loot in all of Minecraft. Full netherite armor, a power 5 bow, fire resistance, and 32 golden apples. I guess they don't call it Jackson's Piglin's lucky loot compound for nothing. So after collecting some extremely overpowered gear, the runner finally makes his way to a nether fortress. Now, as the runner is seemingly running through the halls of the fortress innocently, he randomly gets a strength potion in his inventory, which is weird considering we clearly saw he didn't have this just 10 seconds earlier. Well, if you rewind the footage to just a few seconds ago, you can actually see that the speedrunner passed over this tripwire. And at this exact frame, you can actually see the smallest bit of a dropper at the top of the fortress. And the cherry on top is at this frame, we can see the same friend we've seen throughout the run holding a redstone torch. It's pretty obvious his friend built this tripwire contraption to give the speedrunner strength and make fighting the blazes way easier. So with the strength potion equipped, it's incredibly easy for the runner to fight blazes and kill him quickly. But the runner is still having trouble with them as he simply isn't getting many blaze rods from the blazes he kills. Well, at this part of the footage, we can actually notice that the speedrunner mysteriously collects 3 blaze rods. When first, that's way too many to drop from a single blaze as the max is 1, and secondly, he doesn't even kill a blaze during this part of the speedrun, so how is that possible? Well, take a look at the right wall directly next to the blaze spawner. If you look extremely closely, you can actually make out the shape of a player standing in front of these blocks. It's pretty obvious the runner is wearing a netherrack skin to blend in with the wall, and he's the one who threw the blaze rods at the speedrunner. So, the runner kills a few more blazes and gets the 7 rods that he needs. As the speedrunner leaves the fortress and starts to search for a bastion, he finds the Nether tour guide? How many updates did I miss? So the Nether tour guide starts typing in chat explaining that he is going to give the speedrunner a free tour of the Nether, and the speedrunner responds asking the tour guide to take him to the nearest bastion. And after the tour guide agrees, he starts walking in a very specific direction, of course leading the speedrunner all the way to the bastion. No, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this tour guide is just the player's friend. So the runner enters the bastion and start collecting some gold. But this guy must be new to speedrun, because instead of trying to trade with piglins, he starts throwing his gold at a zombified pigman. You have to be joking. So after trying to trade with the zombified pigman, the runner turns around to quickly check his inventory. But when he looks back, the zombified pigman has actually traded with him. I have no idea how that just happened. So after trading with the zombified pigman, the runner collects all the pearls that he needs and starts to craft another portal. The only problem is he ends up being just short of completing the portal. But after the speedrunner checks his inventory for any possible pieces of obsidian, when he returns to the game, the portal has been magically completed. But hold on, that's literally impossible, as just seconds before we saw it was missing 2 blocks. Well, if you play this part of the footage in very slow motion, you can actually see his friend holding obsidian in his hands and flying away. And at this part of the footage, we can actually see his friend placing blocks. These players are so bad at hiding their cheats. So, with a completed nether portal, the runner lights it and makes their way into the overworld, where the runner gets a pretty interesting spawn as he is teleported in the direct center of a village. And after collecting a few beds to help with the Ender Dragon fight, the runner decides he needs some extra iron and starts looking for the iron golem. And he actually finds one, but he looks slightly different than a normal iron golem. This might actually be the funniest cheat I've seen in a speedrun because it's so unbelievable. So even though this is the most obviously fake iron golem ever, the runner still goes through the effort of trying to kill it, but because this is clearly a player, he not only drops iron ingots, but literally everything in his inventory. This is just getting out of control. So after looting the village, the runner uses his Eyes of Ender to locate the position of the stronghold using triangulation, and the speedrunner eventually finds the stronghold, where he digs down, enters in, and locates the end portal room, where out of nowhere comes his friend, killing the speedrunner. I guess he wasn't happy getting killed earlier in the run. So after the speedrunner gets killed, I guess he doesn't want to waste more time looking for the stronghold again, so he literally just uses a teleport command and goes back to the end's portal room. So the speedrunner finishes the portal, spawns in the end, and thankfully things finally appear normal. The runner is still in survival mode, he doesn't have any strange items in his hotbar, and the dragon is still at full health. Well, do you remember when earlier in the run the speedrunner found Jackson's lucky loot compound? When he goes to the surface, he finds Jackson's lucky loot compound End Edition, and to nobody's surprise, it's equipped with every single item that you would need to defeat the Ender Dragon. And with all of this insanely overpowered loot, the runner destroys the Ender Dragon. Click on screen to watch even more fake Minecraft speedruns.